Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobook. If you enjoy the content, like and subscribing will be greatly appreciated. If you have any recommendation for novels, comment down below. Marvel, Double Through the Fairy Tale World. Chapter 21. With a flick of his finger, a dried fruit shot out and hit the magic mirror directly, exploding on the surface of the magic mirror. Ripples began to appear on the surface of the magic mirror, and after a moment, the face of the devil slowly emerged. Compared with the usual devil, this devil was obviously tired. Excessive answering of questions seemed to be a great burden for this guy. "Dear strong man, you can call me directly next time." The devil had a headache. Although the dried fruit would not cause any harm to him, the force just now would be enough to kill an ordinary person 2 or 3 times. Since its birth, the magic mirror has always been treated as a treasure. Now this treatment makes him want to cry. "Stop talking nonsense and answer my question." Extraordinary classification. "Dear strong man, you will get the answer you want." The classification of extraordinary levels is not complicated. What I know is, apprentice level, professional level, legendary level, and above legendary level. For example, a witch can be called a witch apprentice, a professional witch, or a legendary witch. As for those above the legendary level, that is not within my scope. "What about her? What level is she now?" Rock pointed at the queen. It was another extended question. This should be considered 2 questions. Unfortunately, the devil only dared to whisper in his heart. "The queen is a witch apprentice, and she is not a very strong apprentice. Then, what about me?" The devil in the magic mirror fell into deep thought, and after a moment, he said, "Sorry, I can't fully analyze your power, I can only give a vague answer. Your strange armor seems to contain amazing power. If it is fully unleashed, it should not be weaker than the general professional level." Rock already knew it in his mind. The apprentice level is roughly equivalent to the 2nd level mutant, the professional level is equivalent to the 3rd level mutant, and the legendary level corresponds to the 4th level mutant, like the mutant bipolar. Professor X can scan the whole world with his mind when he puts on his helmet. Magneto can control metal to destroy a football field in an instant when he bursts out with all his strength. Such power can be regarded as legendary power. As for those above the legendary level, they are probably gods, heavenly fathers, and the like. There is no need to consider those in the short term. The second question is, what is the supernatural seed? The devil curled his lips. The above 3 questions were clearly 3, but unfortunately he didn't dare to say them out loud. He only dared to talk nonsense in his mind and answered the questions honestly. The higher mysteries grant the lower mysteries spiritual awakening objects. Only those who have reached the professional level of transcendence can initially condense the transcendence seeds and grant them to other creatures. How to obtain extraordinary seeds? Kill the existence with extraordinary seeds in the body. The more mysterious the existence is, the more precious the extraordinary seeds it can obtain. Special ones can extract other extraordinary abilities. Existences above the professional level condense and bestow. Rock nodded. The last question. The devil in the magic mirror already had an expression that his whole family had died. "Sir, it's not that I don't want to answer. The more questions I answer, the more backlash I will suffer. If I answer again, it will exceed my limit." Rock didn't force it, but said lightly, "Then leave it for tomorrow. I will tell you the questions first, and you can answer me tomorrow after you think about it." Without waiting for the devil's answer, Rock continued. "Solve me a math problem, P plus rho F mu delta V dot." "Devil? What on earth are you talking about, monster? I am a devil, bastard. You asked me to solve math problems. Okay, go back and tell me the answer tomorrow." Before the devil could continue to say anything, a piece of cloth that came out of nowhere was thrown directly into the magic mirror, forcibly blocking the devil, who wanted to say a few more words. "Devil! Don't think that the devil won't curse, bastard." The matter was over. The queen, who had been nestling in the arms of the black warrior, had a strange expression on her face. She looked like she wanted to laugh but couldn't laugh out loud. "Dear master, are you deliberately playing tricks on the magic mirror?" "No, I just found something very interesting." The queen wanted to ask what the interesting thing was, but seeing that the black warrior didn't seem to be ready to answer, she suppressed her curiosity and transformed into a beautiful snake again, wrapping around the black warrior. On the third day. This time, the devil was called many times before he woke up, his face becoming more and more pale and tired. "Come, answer my question." "Sorry, I can't answer this question." "Trash. Devil. I'm very angry, I want to explode, but I can't, and most importantly, I can't beat him. Tell me about the extraordinary classification." Okay, the devil began to tell the story. Extraordinary way to promotion. Okay, the devil continues to answer. Extraordinary. Sorry, I haven't recovered from the previous question and can't answer any more questions. Trash. Devil. It's just trash, I really can't answer it, so I'll just throw it away. You can answer one less question tomorrow. Now, I will leave you one more math question. If you cannot answer it tomorrow, you will be responsible for the consequences rho, u slash, t plus u, u equals dash, p plus mu, 2u plus f. As soon as the question was finished, the magic mirror was blacked out again. On the fourth day. This time, the devil woke up even later, half an hour later than the agreed time, and only then did he reluctantly open his eyes that were so tired that they could hardly open. "Come, answer my question." "Sorry, I still can't answer this." Trash. The devil just gave up, and let him be scolded, it's not a big deal. However, the next moment. Crack. A crack appeared on the surface of the magic mirror, and a severe pain came, waking the numb and tired devil instantly. "It hurts. Spare my life. Powerful being, please spare my life. As long as it's not a math problem, I can answer anything you want to know, please." The black warrior let go of his hand. "Anything except math problems, right?" "Yes." The devil nodded quickly. "Except for math problems, everything is fine. The number of extraordinary beings in this world." The devil hesitated for a while before answering a number 11. "Yes, 11. The 7 dwarfs, Snow White, the Queen, even if the magic mirror is counted, there are only 10, but the answer is 11. Rock's mouth curled up with a hint of playfulness. "Continue to answer my question, where is the distribution of extraordinary knowledge in this world?" This time, the devil hesitated for a longer time, and after a long time, a clearly marked map appeared on the surface of the magic mirror. Rock wrote down the map and nodded with satisfaction. "It seems that you can answer everything except math questions." "That's right, as long as it's not a math problem." The devil gnashed his teeth and said, "Damn math problems, how can there be such a terrible thing in the world? It's even more terrible than this devil. The manufacturing formula of Pym particles." "Devil? What the hell are Pym particles? This is not a math problem. If you can't answer it." Crack. The magic mirror was crushed again, and the threat was self-evident. This time, the magic mirror was not forcibly blackened. The devil's deep eyes stared at the black warrior for a long time. In his eyes, the dark light flickered slightly, cold and gloomy. Finally, the devil's face gradually disappeared. Watching the magic mirror with the devil's face gradually disappearing, Rock and the black warrior pursed his lips slightly. "Finally, I have the killing intention." Chapter 22. At night, Rock, who still hadn't taken off his black warrior armor, was leaning against an oversized chair and falling into a deep sleep. The lights had been turned off, and only the moonlight coming through the window could bring a little dim light. The faint moonlight passed over the beautiful curves of the bed, and finally, it was projected onto the surface of the magic mirror. Suddenly, without anyone calling, ripples suddenly appeared on the surface of the magic mirror, and a moment later, the face of the devil emerged. A wisp of strange smoke spewed out of the devil's mouth. The light smoke seemed to have life, winding in the air, and finally came to the queen's nasal cavity and was inhaled into the queen's nasal cavity. Dream world. The queen, who was originally confused and half asleep in the dream, gradually began to become clear in consciousness. After a moment, the queen, who was completely awake, rubbed her head gently. Her brain was a little groggy. This feeling was a little strange. Queen. The sudden call made the queen raise her delicate eyebrows. When she looked up, she saw the familiar devil's face floating in the air. Strange, why did an ugly thing like you appear in my dream? Don't ask why the queen knew it was a dream. After all, she is an extraordinary being. Even if she is not very good, she is still extraordinary. She is also a magical extraordinary being. It is not surprising that she noticed something wrong. The devil's face eyelids twitched wildly. Very good, it is a magic mirror when it is useful, and an ugly thing when it is not useful. You are such a queen. Of course, it is just a little insult, and there is no need to care about it for the time being. Queen, I came to meet you in my dream on purpose. The queen stretched her waist lazily, showing her hot curves. What, the devil also has human desires? The devil frowned and said, Stop it, you know why I came here. Queen, let's join forces and kill that black warrior. You don't want someone to stand on your head and do whatever he wants, do you? The queen's beautiful eyes wavered. Obviously, these words touched her a little. We are no match for him. The devil sneered, Queen, don't forget that I told you how to obtain your witch power. No one knows what kind of power you have better than me. In a head-on battle, you may not be able to match the black warrior. If I restrain him and give you enough time to prepare, I don't believe you can't kill him. The queen shrugged. I am indeed proficient in some special poisons, but to configure a poison that can kill the opponent through the armor, the required materials cannot be gathered in a short time. If you are patient enough, you can wait for a few months. A few months. The devil's face looked very bad. If he didn't come up with the so-called Pym particle formula, the black warrior would kill him tomorrow. How could he have a few months? After a moment, the devil gritted his teeth. I'll provide the materials. You can actually provide something. The queen was a little surprised. She had always thought that the magic mirror could only answer questions. The devil's face darkened, and he revealed another trump card. However, it didn't matter. The most important thing now was to kill the hateful black warrior. We'll talk about this later. The most important thing now is to kill that guy. No, 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 a strange light appeared in the queen's eyes. I used to think you could only answer one question a day, but the black warrior taught me that you can actually answer multiple questions, and now I know that you can even provide materials. Magic mirror, I just realized that I have always underestimated you. The devil's face was gloomy. What do you want? It has seen that this bad woman is ready to make conditions. At this time, as long as the black warrior is killed, any price is acceptable. As for this bad woman, she is just a witch apprentice, and a useless witch who has abandoned most of her witch power under her deliberate guidance. After killing the black warrior, the queen smiled and opened her charming lips. As for the requirements, there are 2. From now on, answer me 3 questions every day. 2. 3 is already beyond the normal capacity. Don't think about bargaining, it's useless. If it weren't for that damned black warrior who kept me working overtime, I wouldn't want to kill him. If I kill him, you will come in my place, so why would I kill him? After talking about this, the queen thought for a moment and nodded. 2 is fine. Second, I want the subsequent promotion route of the witch path. No problem. So, deal. Happy cooperation. The next day, near noon, Rock turned his gaze to the magic mirror. He threw a dried fruit at the magic mirror without hesitation, and it exploded on the surface of the magic mirror. After a moment, the devil's face slowly emerged. At this time, the devil regained his humble and well-behaved attitude. "Good afternoon, Mr. Black Warrior. You are much more polite than usual. This is all thanks to your help. You made me understand that I was too arrogant and I don't know everything." Rock nodded and said, "Now, answer my question. The formula of the Pym particle." "As you wish, sir, you will get the answer you want." Rock's interest was instantly raised. This guy could actually deduce the manufacturing formula of Pym particles? "Sir, the manufacturing formula of Pym particles is too complicated, and the surface of the magic mirror is not enough to fully manifest it. I deliberately wrote it down on a piece of paper. Sir Darth Vader, would you like to see it immediately? If you want, look now." The next moment, the devil's face disappeared, and a normal-sized paper appeared in the mirror. It was covered with dense characters, but because there were too many characters, it looked relatively small and crowded. It was difficult to see clearly from a distance. As a last resort, Rock just took a few steps forward. 10 meters, 8 meters, 6 meters. Soon, Rock was within 2 meters of the magic mirror. Suddenly, a small hole suddenly appeared on the surface of the magic mirror, which seemed like a hole from some kind of hot weapon. In an instant, a bullet erupted and rushed towards the surface of the Black Warrior. It happened so quickly that Rock noticed something was wrong the moment the hole appeared. At the critical moment, Rock actually reacted and barely turned over. The face that was targeted was not hit. The bullet rubbed the shoulder and tore the shoulder of the Black Warrior's armor that was strong enough to withstand armor-piercing bullets. There was a crack. At the moment when Rock rolled sideways to block the bullet, a look of pity flashed in the devil's eyes, and then he gritted his teeth, and the surface of the magic mirror was subjected to unprecedented strong fluctuations. A monster jumped out of the magic mirror and rushed straight towards Rock. The monster's movements were fast and swift. It instantly pounced on the Black Warrior's back, and one arm stretched out, tightly binding the Black Warrior's body. At this moment, it was only then that we could see what the monster that jumped out looked like. This was a monster that was several times larger than the dwarf, with a familiar demonic face, about 1.34 meters tall, with a creepy green color all over, and limbs and arms. The size of the arms was completely out of proportion. Each arm was 1 meter long, trapping the Black Warrior tightly. The devil, who was binding the Black Warrior tightly, shouted loudly, "Queen, what are you waiting for? Hurry up! Let's do it, all right!" As soon as the words fell, boom! A huge cage fell from the sky, trapping the Dark Knight and the devil inside. Seeing this scene, the devil was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly became furious. "Queen, what are you doing? Our goal is to kill the Dark Knight. What are you doing?" At this time, Rock's faint voice came from the Dark Knight's armor. "Is there a possibility that what she did was fine, and you are just overthinking it?" The devil was stunned at first, and then suddenly a chill rose in his heart. It was not stupid, and many things were instantly connected. "She is in league with you. You are plotting against me together. Oh, you think you know it all? Idiot, you don't understand human nature at all, let alone witches. Witches worship the powerful, but when the powerful become weak, they will abandon them. This is not because witches are fickle, but because witches have always only obeyed the powerful and wholeheartedly respected the powerful. You are only a conspirator, a demon, not strong enough to be called powerful. How can you make the witch willingly cooperate with you?" The Queen's enchanting figure emerged, smiling charmingly. "Yes, this is the witch." The devil fell into a long silence, and after a long time, he said coldly, "Trapping us together doesn't seem to be in your favor." "Yes, so she provide me with a fair battle arena, she will only cooperate with the winner. And this is what I was looking forward to." As soon as the words fell, a terrifying force erupted instantly. The next moment, the devil's limbs and arms were instantly torn apart, and a huge force exploded, and the devil was shaken away and crashed into the cage. Chapter 23. The Black Warrior turned around and his cold eyes fell on the devil. "You are really ugly. Your appearance reminds me of a creature from the lower realms of hell, the lesser demon. I am not that kind of despicable creature." The devil was instantly furious, and then he grabbed the cage behind him with one claw. That's right, as a creature that thinks it likes to use its brain, the first thing it thought of was to escape, not to fight. However, the devil's strong claws grabbed the cage, and there was no other effect except splashing a series of sparks. How can it be? Why not? Made of the strongest steel, just such a cage requires dozens of the best craftsmen to forge day and night, plus tens of thousands of pounds of steel to make it. The devil suddenly widened his eyes. How is it possible? How could I not find such a thing? Wait! The devil suddenly came back to his senses and stared at the Black Warrior. You do this deliberately. It forced me to answer questions beyond my limit, forced me to be extremely exhausted due to the backlash, and made it impossible for me to investigate the situation in the palace. Those damn math problems are all your calculations. Not so stupid that there is no hope, Rock responded calmly. How is it possible? Why do you know me so well? Is it hard to guess? With your incredible omniscience, we can deduce two possibilities. First, you can scan everything in the world at will. Second, you have a special information channel. I threatened you several times, but you could only endure it. The former is definitely impossible. With that level of power, you wouldn't be so afraid of me that you wouldn't dare to resist. Then the latter is the only option left. Coincidentally, I have heard of a creature called the Mirror Ghost. It is said that it is a creature that can appear in any mirror at will. If you enter the world of the Mirror Ghost through a mirror, you can enter a special mirror world, a world that is completely opposite to the real world. You are not exactly the same as the Mirror Ghost, but your characteristics are very similar to those of the Mirror Ghost. If I am not mistaken, there is indeed a mirror world in you that is completely opposite to the normal world. In the mirror world, you can also walk through the mirror at will like the Mirror Ghost. This is the truth of your omnipotence, because you can find answers anytime and anywhere. The reason why you can only answer one question per day is simply because you cannot afford to travel multiple times. In addition, the reason why you care so much about this mirror is not because it is so precious, or because it is your true self. You act so painfully, but it is just a disguise to make others think that the mirror is your true self, so as to reduce their fear of you. If I'm not mistaken, that mirror should be quite special. It is the only special mirror that can connect you to the normal world. That's why you care so much about the magic mirror. So, if I really want to kill you, there is only one way. The devil said with a cold face, word by word, gritting his teeth. Force me out of the magic mirror. That's right. If you destroy the magic mirror directly, you might just give up and try to find another way. Instead, I force you step by step, constantly increase your anger, and then give you the confidence to fight, so that I can really trick you out. The devil's face was extremely ugly. Last question. Why do you have to kill me? The answer is simple. The Black Warrior slowly drew out his sword. You said it yourself, the higher the mystery, the more precious the extraordinary seeds you get after killing the person. In this world, is there anyone more mysterious than you? So that's it. I understand. The devil looked convinced, but the next moment, his expression suddenly became ferocious. Then you go to hell. A ball of strange liquid intertwined with black and green was suddenly thrown out by the devil. The strange liquid seemed to have some kind of activity. It expanded inch by inch in the air, and finally poured over the Black Warrior. After the attack hit the target, the devil didn't care whether it worked or not. He turned around and took out a small amount of the strange liquid again, pressing it on the surface of the cage. The super-strong cage that could withstand tons of force without deformation actually melted out a channel in less than a second under the erosion of the liquid. Idiot! Since you guessed that I own an entire mirror world, you didn't guess that I also have extraordinary poison. It's your honor to die under the strongest apprentice-level poison. The devil just taunted, then turned and ran towards the magic mirror. It had been away for too long, and its sense of uneasiness had reached its extreme. However, when the devil with purple on his face jumped out and hit the magic mirror, he only heard a bang. The magic mirror broken. Broken. How is it possible? The devil's eyes suddenly widened. How could the magic mirror be broken? The devil suddenly thought of something. He turned around and saw the queen looking at him with a smile. That's right, it was me who did it. I replaced the magic mirror. The devil was instantly furious. She betrayed it again and replaced the mirror. Damn this witch! Damn it! Kill you! Just a witch apprentice, and a half-useless witch apprentice at that. The smile on the queen's face became more charming. Mr. Devil, you may not be able to kill me. As she said that, she pouted to the side. Before the devil turned around, he suddenly felt a terrifying feeling, high temperature, extremely hot, as if everything was about to burn, and the air was rippling with amazing ripples. When he turned around, he saw that the extraordinary poison had already melted under the extreme high temperature, and the black warrior was holding a red sword in his hand at this time. The temperature on it was enough to melt steel into molten iron. Just lightly touching the ground, the map was carbonized and burning. You are not the only one who is gathering strength while you are talking too much, you ugly thing. The next moment, the desperate devil's sight was drowned by the red gold high-temperature sword that was enough to cut through everything. With a puff, everything was split in two by the extremely high-temperature sword, like a fragile piece of white paper. Chapter 24. Ignoring the body of the devil that was split in two, Rock's attention was completely attracted by the light spot that was slowly floating up. Different from the extraordinary seed obtained from the dwarf, this one was brighter, and even had a strange pattern faintly emerging on it, and it obviously looked much higher in grade. The special extraordinary seed sank into the palm of his hand, and in an instant, a light curtain that only Rock himself could see emerged out of thin air. Item: Extraordinary Seed. Grade: Rare. Introduction: Can open the rare extraordinary sequence of Mirror, Hell, and Demon series. Rock's mouth curled up. Finally, he got a complete extraordinary seed, and it was of rare grade. Another important point is that with a complete extraordinary seed, the strategy mission of this world is completed, and he can give up the mission at any time to return to the Marvel world. Rock naturally would not choose to go back. This can only be regarded as an extra insurance measure. He glanced at the task interface again, and it had shown 100% completion at this time. Speaking of which, if the task completion rate reaches 100%, you can get the sovereignty reward of the world that matches you. So, what if it exceeds 100%? To be honest, Rock was a little curious at this moment. Rock's eyes inadvertently glanced at the queen. At this time, the witch queen was leaning over there to study the devil's corpse with great interest. After all, witches are a branch of witches, so it's not surprising that they are curious about these strange and extraordinary materials. Rock's eyes casually glanced at the full moon that became more and more fruitful because of the leaning over. Forget it, although this is also an extraordinary seed, it is most likely the extraordinary root of the witch sequence. The extraordinary root can only be used by women, and there is no one around Rock who needs it, so it is better to leave it to the queen. Rock never hides his interest in this charming queen. If you are curious, then study it. As a witch, beauty is important, but strength is also indispensable. The queen turned around and looked at the black warrior strangely. Aren't you afraid that I will become stronger and beyond your control? I will only be stronger than you. A faint voice, with extreme confidence. Sitting in countless fairy tale worlds, if the speed of becoming stronger cannot catch up with a witch, then Rock might as well commit suicide directly. The Queen smiled, and her smile became more charming. Deep in her eyes, there was a faint strange color flashing. What a charming master! Doesn't the Queen want to become stronger? How is it possible? No matter how lazy a waste is, there is a heart that wants to become stronger, unless there is no other way. The Queen became this half-disabled witch. Of course, she cares more about her beauty, but more importantly, the devil has been suppressing the Queen's growth. Just look at it and you will know that the devil is very mysterious, but in fact its combat effectiveness is not very strong. How dare it cultivate a witch who is too powerful? A master who no longer suppresses his own growth and looks full of vigor is more in line with the witch's pursuit. The Queen's eyes are full of charm. Unfortunately, as I said, before he is completely extraordinary, Rock will not take off his black warrior armor. Self-confidence is one aspect, but self-confidence to the point of losing vigilance is a brain-dead person. The Queen, who got no response, curled her lips and put away the devil's body. Actually, I am still a little curious. If this devil is so special, why does he disguise himself as a magic mirror to answer other people's questions? He can obviously walk out of the magic mirror. First, its combat effectiveness is not strong, and second, Rock looked away. Have you ever heard of the saying, "Faith is the food of God"? The magic mirror that can answer questions has long been a mythical object, and the legend is extremely widespread. Faith. The Queen's eyes suddenly narrowed. That ugly thing wants to be a god. But how is it possible? Where does it get the confidence to become a god? At most, it is just an apprentice-level extraordinary. Because someone gave it the confidence, or rather, it can no longer be called a human being. Noticing the direction the Black Warrior was looking at, the Queen suddenly showed a shocked expression on her face. She had thought of something and exclaimed. Snow White! That's right, it was Snow White. The strange aura of forced friendliness and the origin of Snow White were clearly recorded in the original book. Snow White was suddenly conceived after the king and the previous queen prayed to the gods. Excluding the possibility of the old king, it was obvious that Snow White was not an ordinary person at all. In some cases, she could even be called a goddess. So the question is, since this era can give birth to a suspected goddess like Snow White, what about other eras? The devil has a wealth of knowledge about the world and it is impossible for him not to notice this problem. Maybe he even knows more than others. Then, with the goddess, he can try to obtain the divinity of the other party, accumulate faith, and even become a god. Everything seems logical. This also makes it completely understandable why the devil said that Snow White was more beautiful than the witch queen who advocated beauty, deliberately provoking the queen's murderous intention. In fact, Rock estimated that the queen's witch path was achieved under the deliberate guidance of the devil. The opposition between witch and goddess is self-evident. The witch's poison may be the only thing in the world that can kill the goddess. What a terrible arrangement! The queen said in amazement. Those are in the past, they are no longer important. Now, go and help me do something. The queen's face reappeared a charming smile. All right, my master. Make a poison apple. The poison doesn't have to be too strong, just enough to make people temporarily unconscious. And then? My lord. Then, find an opportunity to feed Snow White. This way, she may not be poisoned to death. Why poison her? A woman who looks like a goddess, who knows what the consequences of killing her will be. She is not my target. You don't need to know too much, just do it. The queen nodded meekly. Looking at the queen's departing back, Rock's mouth curled up slightly. Rock didn't forget that the devil said there were 11 extraordinary people in this world. It was useless to exclude the extraordinary seed from the queen. The one from Snow White was not easy to get. If the devil got it, the one from the 7 dwarfs would be available sooner or later. Besides, there was another one. Chapter 25. Bang bang bang. There's a knock on the door. Please wait a moment. After a while, Snow White opened the door. At this time, Snow White had changed into the most ordinary rough clothes, and was holding a broom in her hand, as if she was cleaning. Even so, her innocent and beautiful face did not diminish in the slightest, but instead made the rough clothes on her body more distinctive. Looking at the strange old lady with white hair and hunched waist at the door, Snow White asked curiously, "Old lady, do you have anything to do for you?" The old woman coughed lightly twice. "Kind and beautiful girl, can you give me a glass of water? I haven't had water for a long time." Snow White immediately felt compassion. "Okay, please wait a moment." Snow White turned around and took a glass of water and threw it to the old lady. The old lady drank the water tremblingly, and her complexion was visibly better. "You are such a kind girl. To thank you, please accept this apple that I have treasured for a long time." The apple that the old lady took out was red and bright, which made people greedy at first sight. However, Snow White didn't want to accept it, not because she looked down on this bright red apple, but because she was worried that the old lady would have nothing to eat in the future. However, when Snow White looked up and wanted to return the apple, she saw that the old lady had disappeared. Although Snow White felt a little strange, she didn't think much about it. As innocent as she was, there were not too many dark thoughts in her heart. Since the old lady had left, she looked at the red apple that had already made her heart beat, her lips dried slightly, turned around, and returned to the room with the apple. Her steps became more excited. "Finish the housework first, then taste this delicious apple, and also leave some for the dwarfs." At this time, far away from the house, on a hillside, the dark and majestic Black Warrior overlooked the scene below. The old lady appeared beside the Black Warrior, no longer hoarse, and her voice was no longer hoarse and old. "Does it really work?" Rock and the Black Warrior glanced at the old lady and said, "You'll know if it works if you try it. Besides, your camouflage can no longer be called camouflage. Your camouflage involves changes in body shape, which is more like transfiguration." The old lady shook her head. "Camouflage is a lower-level magic of transfiguration. I can only change freely when I reach the professional level. Now I can only change between humanoid life forms." Rock nodded, turned around, stopped communicating with the old lady, and continued to look down at the scene below. Snow White is hardworking and cheerful. Even when doing housework, she is happy, like a cheerful bird. Soon, the whole room was cleaned up, and even reflected a faint luster. After doing everything, Snow White washed her hands, walked to the table, cut the bright red apple into 6 equal-sized portions, and then picked up her own portion and tasted it beautifully. When the sweet taste entered her mouth, Snow White's eyes lit up instantly, and she began to eat it one bite at a time. She ate very slowly, slowly savoring this hard-earned delicious red apple. However, as a small portion of red apple was gradually eaten, Snow White's eyes began to become a little blurry. After a while, with a bang, Snow White fell on the table. Rock, who saw all this clearly through the window, smiled slightly. "Let's go, time to find another guy." "Who is it?" "Now that we have a princess, we naturally need a prince who matches her, the Prince Charming." As both are extraordinary beings, the witch may be a natural nemesis, being immune to Snow White's special aura and harming her, and the hard-to-deal-with dwarfs will fall directly. However, the prince is also immune. Not only is he immune, but he can also completely possess Snow White. That prince is truly special. So here comes the question, how can such a special prince actually fall in love with Snow White, who has been poisoned by the poisoned apple in the original book as soon as he appears? Obviously, that is a LSP. As a prince, the heir of a kingdom, he is theoretically noble and noble. Normally, a prince cannot leave the kingdom at will to prevent problems with the heir to the throne. However, this handsome prince is different. Handsome is just his appearance. What is really special about him is his military strength, which is so strong that even if he goes out alone, the king will not worry about his safety. The prince is powerful and curious. He always looks for places that interest him. Even if it is the territory of the Lion King, the lair of giant pythons, or even the water source occupied by crocodiles, he has seen them all and conquered those powerful monsters with his powerful military strength. All of this is like a brave man in mythology shining into reality, and the prince has become more and more fearless. This time, he came to a remote forest again, killing the terrifying beasts one by one, and suddenly, he saw a dilapidated house. There is something wrong with the appearance of a house in such a room, but seeing that this room is a tree house on a big tree, it can be barely understood. Of course, no matter what was right or wrong, the prince was not afraid at all. He had killed too many monsters that would scare ordinary people. He walked forward and knocked gently on the door. Who? A very alert voice and faint sobbing sound came from the room. After a moment, a pair of old and alert eyes looked through the cracks in the window and saw the scene outside. After a moment, the door was opened with a creak. An old lady, a very old lady, seemed to have cried too much at this time. There were visible tears in the corners of her eyes and her lips were slightly dry. It was hard to imagine how long she had been crying. Old lady, I heard sobbing. Are you in trouble? The old lady hesitated, looked at his handsome face and stiff body, hesitated for a while, and then said. It was my daughter, my poor daughter, who was snatched away by a group of horrible monsters that looked like little devils. The prince's eyes lit up. He had seen a lot in his travels, but he had never seen a monster snatching a girl. Most importantly, this was a common plot in storybooks. The plot in the story was reflected in reality, and according to the normal development in the story. Don't say it, don't say it, the prince was really a little excited at this moment. To be honest, I am an excellent knight. I have conquered giant pythons and powerful lion kings. I may be able to help you. The old lady looked at the prince cautiously, with expectation and doubt. After a long time, perhaps the expectation of finding her daughter overwhelmed her doubt. She turned around and searched for a picture. This is my poor daughter. If you can help me find my daughter and kill those damned little demons, I am willing to marry my daughter to you. He looked at her with a little expectation. Wait, let me take another look. It seems that I can't see clearly. Wait, take another look, just one look. Hiss. How can this be the daughter of an old lady? This is not the princess destined by God, but mine. After a while, the prince carefully put away the painting, with a serious face. Old lady, please put it down. I swear on my life that I will kill those little demons and bring your daughter back. His tone was very serious and his attitude was very sincere. Even his attitude towards the old lady was a little more humble. Chapter 26. The prince set off solemnly, with a bit of murderous intent in his solemnity. Anyone who dares to snatch his princess will be killed. Long after he left, dull footsteps sounded, and the figure of the black warrior emerged. At the same time, the old lady, who had originally looked miserable, stood up again. That guy is quite strong. The old lady said in amazement. Rock also nodded. According to the devil, he should be considered a senior apprentice. The supernatural system in the fairy tale world is still very formal, not as casual as in the Marvel world. On the basis of the apprentice level, professional level, and legendary level, there are also elementary, medium, and advanced levels. The senior apprentice is the strongest batch of apprentices. Even the most mysterious and special mirror devil is only a medium apprentice. As for the Queen of Demons, she is just a primary apprentice. However, even though he was a senior apprentice, it was hard to predict the outcome against those ugly dwarves. Those dwarves, individually, were not even junior apprentices. An ordinary person could probably kill a dwarf, but if the special weapons made by the dwarves were taken into account, it would be hard to say. If a group of dwarves used extraordinary weapons at the same time, it was possible that the senior apprentice would be killed. You will know after you take a look. When the prince found the house of the dwarves with murderous intent, he saw a group of ugly and short creatures, like little monsters, fiddling with a corpse. When the prince looked at the face of the corpse, his eyes suddenly widened. Angry. Furious. Damn monsters! They dared to hurt his princess. The furious prince instantly drew out his sword, stomped on the ground, and rushed towards one of the dwarfs. With a swish, a dwarf was instantly split in half. The other dwarfs came to their senses, although they didn't understand what was going on with the prince. However, the death of their companions, coupled with their disgust for humans, was totally unbearable, even if the prince had a terrifyingly powerful extraordinary aura. One by one, they took out the golden special weapons. The battle broke out instantly. In the distance, Rock, who was spying on the battle, suddenly shook his head. What a pity! The dwarves' special weapons are very powerful. Even the devil likes to use them as his trump card. When the devil attacked Rock, he used that kind of special weapon. Even Rock's black warrior armor that is said to be able to withstand armor-piercing bullets can be broken. Unfortunately, the limitations are obvious. These dwarves have limited wisdom. Even if they can make a special musket, it can only fire one shot. No matter how strong the attack power is, it cannot fire continuously. In addition, 3 of the 7 dwarfs have already fallen. Facing the furious prince, it is a completely one-sided massacre. Finally, the battle was over. All the dwarves had fallen to the ground, and the whole area was filled with a faint smell of blood. The prince was not unscathed either. He was hit in the abdomen and was shot through. Fortunately, with the prince's hard power, it was not a fatal injury, so he could bear it for the time being. Covering the wound with one hand, the prince strode towards the flower bed. Looking at Snow White in the middle of the flower bed, the prince was heartbroken. Such a beautiful lady, was killed by a group of ugly little monsters. Damn it, I really want to kill them again. Oh my! My daughter! A hysterical wail of pain suddenly came from behind, and an old figure threw himself on Snow White's body and cried loudly. The prince recognized the other person's identity. It was the old lady he had met before, the old lady who could have become a family. As for why the other person appeared here, the prince could guess that she was probably worried that she might not be able to save her daughter, so she followed to see the situation. After the old lady cried for a while, the prince comforted her. "Old man, don't be sad." The old woman gradually stopped crying, not because the prince's comfort was so effective, but probably because she had expected it in advance, maybe? Turning back to take a look at the dwarf's body, the old lady's eyes showed materialized hatred. "Damn demons, die well! Die well!" After a while, the old lady turned her eyes back and thanked sincerely. "Thank you so much." It was also at this time that the old lady seemed to realize that the prince was injured, and hurriedly took out an old but clean package from her arms and took out some medicine from it. "You use these medicines first to stop the bleeding." The prince did not object. Although he could bear it, if there was a chance, who would want to bleed all the time? "Hey, this medicine is amazing. I felt warm immediately. Wait, why do I feel hotter and hotter, and it seems to be more and more painful?" The prince finally realized that something was wrong, and suddenly looked up at the old lady. However, what greeted him was white powder blowing in his face. These white powders seemed to have terrible corrosiveness and instantly began to erode the prince's face. The prince immediately covered his face and roared in pain. At this moment, the terrifying sword wind, wrapped in terrifying power, chopped down the prince with his sword. Boom! The ground shook, and the surroundings seemed to form a materialized air wave that impacted the surroundings, shaking countless leaves away and then falling all over the sky. Looking at the prince whose face was severely injured and endured the erosion of the poison, but was still able to block his sword at the critical moment, Rock exclaimed in admiration. As expected of a senior apprentice, he can still put up an effective resistance at this time. What a pity, he still has to die. Instantly, a terrifying high temperature rose above the sword, and it chopped down again. After suffering continuous heavy blows, his combat power seemed to be mostly damaged. Even with the strength of a senior apprentice, facing the Black Warrior with full combat power, he only took 3 blows, and was cut off by the hot melt sword wrapped in terrifying high temperature. The sword in his hand was cut off by the pouring force, and the prince was split in half with one sword. Looking at the prince who could not die anymore, Rock waved his hand and got another extraordinary seed. He turned and walked towards the corpses of several dwarfs. After a moment, the third extraordinary seed was completely formed. The queen, who had returned to her original appearance, looked at Snow White who was lying on the flower bed and just fell asleep, and said, "Master, do you want to kill her too?" Rock fell silent. To be honest, he was a little moved. The extraordinary seed in Snow White must be extraordinary. Maybe it could be comparable to the devil and reach a rare quality. But, as I said, Snow White is too mysterious. No one knows what the consequences will be if Snow White is killed. Suddenly, Rock seemed to have thought of something and decisively retracted his sword. "Let's go back to the palace." I suddenly had a bold idea. Whether Snow White can be killed or not, and what the consequences will be, can actually be tested. The method of testing is the magic mirror. There is a mirror world in the magic mirror. Since the devil can find all the answers in the real world through that special mirror world, then obviously, the related characters must also exist. Moreover, 3 extraordinary seeds cannot satisfy Rock. Chapter 27. Without the devil's control, the magic mirror became more and more magical. A light touch was like touching the water, causing ripples. The next moment, the Black Warrior plunged into it. The sky was spinning, and everything was twisting. Everything was twisting, and it took Rock several minutes to get used to the feeling that the world was turning upside down. Looking up, the situation in the mirror world came into view. Grey and bleak, the whole world was only black and white, lifeless, giving people a strong feeling of discomfort. Suddenly, a light curtain appeared out of thin air, and a prompt appeared in it. Prompt: the negative reversal law is eroding, and a law-level reversal will occur in 100 minutes. Rock looked up at his hands. He already had a vague feeling that his 2 hands had begun to change. Rock's normal right hand was the main one, but now, he felt that it was deviating to the main left hand. Fortunately, this change is very slow and he can still adapt to it for the time being. 100 minutes, Rock frowned. This was not a lot of time. It seemed that he had to hurry up. Behind him, the 2 sides of the handsome cape suddenly burst out with powerful firepower. In an instant, Rock actually flew up. If the Green Goblin armor could fly, how could the Darth Vader be impossible? This was also the effect of the cape behind him. The cape was not just for looks. Of course, it was definitely not as good looking as Iron Man's flying. After all, the Green Goblin was only flying at low altitude. The Darth Vader armor was just a modification of the Green Goblin's glider into the cape style behind him. In addition, flying consumes a lot of energy. There was no small nuclear reactor in the Darth Vader armor, so Rock had never used it before. In an instant, the Darth Vader turned into a black dot and disappeared without a trace in an instant. The palace. The palace in the mirror world was also black and white. The guards at the door were rows of female guards. It seemed that even the professions in this world had reversed. The Darth Vader instantly fell and punched through the ceiling of the palace, killing his way into the familiar Queen's palace. At this time, in the familiar palace, a handsome and elegant man was in disguise. With a bang, the door was violently smashed open. The handsome and elegant man stood up immediately, revealing a vigilant look. Rock frowned. The gender was reversed. The Demon Queen became the Demon Queen? Even the temperament changed. The only thing that did not change was the extraordinary aura that came from her body. The Black Warrior rushed forward in an instant, grabbed the Demon Queen, and under the other party's horrified and unwilling eyes, he squeezed hard, and with a click, the neck of the Demon Queen was directly twisted. After doing this, Rock didn't pay attention to other things and flew into the sky again. It was just a reversal. In fact, everything in this world is closely related to the real world. You only need to reverse some things in your memory to easily find the answers to everything. So soon, Rock came to the forest where the dwarves were and found the dwarves' defense. Suspended in the air, looking at the scene below, Rock's eyes suddenly widened. The dwarfs also reversed, and the reversal was extremely outrageous. The little monsters that were only about 1 meter tall suddenly turned into giants that were more than 3 meters tall and looked like small hills. Even their gender became female. In the middle of this group of little giants, there was an extremely charming man. I think he was the reversed Snow White, or should he be called the Black Snow Prince? At this time, the 7 little giants were already making wreaths. Obviously, without Rock's influence, this world had reached the point where the Queen fed Snow White the poisoned apple, and Snow White's reversed character was already lying on the flower bed. Rock glanced at the time. 20 minutes had passed, and there were still 80 minutes. Rock's face was slightly gloomy, and he suppressed the solemnity in his heart and began to wait in mid-air. There was still enough time, and he was ready to play a big game. Time slowly began to pass, floating in the air, and the energy of the Black Warrior armor was also pouring out rapidly. Finally, when Rock's face became more and more heavy and he was ready to find a place to wait for a while, the reversed character of the prince appeared, and now he should be called the princess. At the moment when the princess appeared, Rock instantly pulled out the high-temperature hot melt sword behind him. The temperature did not rise, but countless cavities were instantly opened all over his body. The sword stretched across, and the next moment, a V-shaped burst out instantly, attached to the surface of the sword. A normal-sized sword, in a few seconds, turned into a high-tech heavy sword. Taking a deep breath, the Black Warrior armor began to rise, slowly reaching the upper limit of the height it could reach. The next moment, the heavy sword in his hand suddenly fell. Rock could not have any malice or murderous intentions towards Princess White Snow, but it did not mean that he could not release a large range to affect the other party. The Sword of Judgment fell to the ground. 1 second, 2 seconds. Boom! The sky was shaking, the earth was shaking. The raging flames rose up, and the terrifying air waves hit all directions, forming an amazing shock wave that spread hundreds of meters, instantly wiping out hundreds of meters of the area. As time went on, it continued to spread to the surroundings. In the center of the explosion range, no matter what giant or princess, they were completely annihilated in an instant. A few minutes later, the smoke dissipated, and a terrifying deep pit with a diameter of hundreds of meters appeared on the spot, and the bottom could not be seen at a glance. The Black Warrior swooped down, waved his hand, and several light spots floated up and fell into his hand, a total of 3. Success! Obviously, the reverse character of Snow White can really be killed by this method. And at the moment when the 3 extraordinary seeds fell into the palm of the hand, the sky suddenly changed color, and a terrifying sense of oppression began to condense in the sky, and the sky and the earth changed color. In an instant, a terrifying face whose real face could not be seen gathered above the sky and overlooked the earth. Feeling the terrifying sense of oppression and murderous intent coming from above, Rock did not panic. Sure enough, I can't kill him. Fortunately, this is just a mirror world, so I can just discard it. Rock didn't care at all. Come back. In an instant, Rock's figure disappeared from the spot. Above the sky, there was a sudden earth-shaking roar, and the void of the entire mirror world began to collapse. Chapter 28. What is God? He is a strong person. He is immortal. He is an existence that controls laws and rules and is above the mortal world. Rock was thinking, why would there really be traces of God in a world like Snow White? There is indeed no shortage of gods in the fairy tale world, and even God has appeared more than once, such as in God and the Devil. The tailor who walked into heaven and so on. But why would there be traces of gods in a mere Snow-White world? It is obviously just equivalent to a lowest level supernatural world, similar to a novice world. If there really is a god, the military power of Snow White's world should not be so low, and the strongest person is just a prince who is a senior apprentice. Perhaps, the fairy tale world is actually similar to the structure of the Marvel world. The fairy tale world is a series of small worlds, and the gods are high above, located in the so-called dimensional world. They are the existence of dimensional demons and cannot enter the lower world at will. If this is really the case. Rock frowned slightly, revealing a trace of solemnity. If it is really as he guessed, then the so-called alienation is complicated. Maybe the so-called alienation is actually the influence of the gods on the fairy tale world. This may not be the whole truth of alienation, but I am afraid that a large part of it is like this. Then, the so-called alienated world is likely to be dangerous. That's all. Rock shook his head and ignored those things for the time being. Right now, he was not suitable to consider things of that level. At least, it would not be too late to consider those things after he stepped into the so-called legendary realm. The next moment, Rock's breathing became slightly hot. With a wave of his hand, points of light appeared in front of him. The Snow White world obtained 3 extraordinary seeds, and the Mirror world obtained 7. Therefore, there are 7 extraordinary seeds here. This represents a total of 7 roots to become extraordinary. Among them, 1 is of rare grade, 5 are of ordinary quality, and 1 is of special quality. It is an extraordinary seed that comes from Snow White's incarnation. Item: Extraordinary seed. Grade: Special. Introduction: it can open the Ice series extraordinary sequence, or attach divinity to the extraordinary sequence. It has a very different effect from other extraordinary seeds. So, the extraordinary seeds can actually be fused. Rock raised his eyebrows, otherwise, the special effect behind should not appear. As for such fusion, Rock instantly opened the light curtain. 700% mission completion. If there is fusion ability, it will definitely appear in the reward. Do you want to open the World Sovereignty reward? Yes. Start scanning the world. World scan completed. Sovereignty rewards begin to condense. If the mission completion rate is too high, the quality of sovereignty rewards will be improved. If the mission completion rate is too high, the number of sovereignty rewards will increase. Sovereignty rewards are condensed successfully. The following sovereignty can be selected as 4 items. There are 4 rewards, and Rock's eyes suddenly lit up. Source of Magic, Legendary. You will receive a legendary magic boost. The magic limit is raised to the maximum, the magic recovery speed is increased by 1000%, and the magic boost speed is 300%. Just the first reward made Rock take a deep breath. 10 times the recovery speed and 3 times the boost speed, it is just one word. Rock took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to choose directly. He continued to look at the rewards below. Legendary Physique, Legendary. You will receive a legendary level of physique enhancement, with the upper limit of physique raised to the maximum, immunity to 70% of physical damage, and physical injury recovery speed increased by 2000%. Almost corresponding to the previous reward, it is also very attractive. Rock did not hesitate and read all the rewards in one go. Ability upgrade, Legendary. All skills you release will gain a 500% increase in strength. Son of Heaven, Legend. Your training speed is increased by 500%. Extraordinary Fusion, Special. You will get a chance to fuse the extraordinary seeds once, and the quality of the fused seed will be forcibly increased by 1 level. Born Noble, Special. When you enter any fairy tale world, you will randomly obtain a status second only to the strongest and highest quality, such as Prince, the second richest man, Cardinal, etc. 7th Life, Special. You will have 7 lives, and you can be resurrected in full condition on the spot after being killed. Rock fell into a long silence, and only after a long time did he suppress the excitement in his heart. Too strong. This is the reward for 700% mission completion. Without any nonsense, Rock immediately selected option, the fusion ability that he had expected long ago. This thing is related to his own extraordinary sequence, which is the foundation of everything and more important than anything else. There are 6 options left, and Rock immediately selected exclude, 1 status, 1 resurrection. It's useless. After all, Rock has other ways to resurrect. To be honest, they are all good, but it's a pity that Rock can only choose 4 in total. For a moment, Rock was in a state of hesitation. It must be chosen. The 5-fold skill increase and 5-fold training speed are so good. No need to talk nonsense. The rest is whether to choose magic or physique. It's a bit tangled. After a moment, Rock did not choose again. Instead, he temporarily closed the light curtain. The reward did not need to be chosen immediately. First, see what kind of extraordinary sequence can be fused, and then decide whether to choose magic or physique. Start the fusion of extraordinary seeds. In an instant, an illusory furnace-like thing appeared in front of Rock, floating in the air. 7 extraordinary seeds were taken out by Rock again. Rock thought for a while and picked one of them out. The one he picked out was from the extraordinary seeds obtained from the 7 dwarves. Name: Extraordinary Seed. Quality: Ordinary. Introduction: it can open the extraordinary sequences of dwarf forgers, dwarf warriors, etc. There are special dwarf notes. If a super powerful extraordinary sequence is made, and a dwarf prefix is added in front of it, Rock will want to die. After thinking about it, he took out the supernatural seed of the relatively small giant. It was uncomfortable to become shorter, but it was not much better to become a giant for no reason. Just look at the stone man, he wanted to die when he first mutated. The remaining 5 supernatural seeds were thrown in by Rock. Various lights flickered in it. After a while, there was no earth-shattering vision. The furnace-like thing slowly disappeared. What was left was a special supernatural seed that flickered with various lights and obviously looked very unusual. Name: Supernatural Seed. Quality: Legendary Divinity. Introduction: it can open the exclusive Divine Legend sequence Chaos Knight. Chapter 29. Chaos, the mother of all things, the source of everything. Rock did not hesitate at all. This extraordinary sequence, which was extremely sharp at first glance, did not require any hesitation at all. He immediately swallowed and refined the extraordinary seed according to the extraordinary knowledge that the devil had explained. The moment the extraordinary seed entered his body, a powerful but not violent force began to spread rapidly. It was obvious that Rock's body began to transform, and his mortal body began to transform into the extraordinary realm. After a while, this change just stopped. Just the seed of transcendence has entered my body, and I haven't completely stepped into the apprentice level yet, but my body has been strengthened 3 times. As expected of a Divine Legend sequence, it is ridiculously strong. Now is the time to seize the opportunity and pursue the enemy. After choosing it instantly, Rock hesitated for a moment and finally chose reward. Chaos Knight is a legendary sequence. Chaos is the mother of all things. It is naturally very unusual to have chaos as the prefix. Chaos Knight can be regarded as a dual cultivation of magic and martial arts, but after all, it is the ceiling upper profession of knights. Relatively speaking, it is more biased towards the warrior side. Choose reward, the extreme expansion advantage side, to burst out the limit of combat power. Legendary physique, ability upgrade, and the 3 rewards of the favored child of heaven entered the body. In an instant, the extraordinary seed that had just settled down not long ago trembled violently. Rock's body, which had begun to become extraordinary, began to transform more against the sky. Time passed slowly. 1 hour, 2 hours. Gradually, a day passed. I don't know when it started, dong, dong, dong. One after another, the vibration sound like thunder sounded one after another. The sound was like a huge bell, and if you listen carefully, it was more like the sound of a heartbeat. Suddenly, the sound of the heartbeat like a huge bell accelerated, one after another, faster and faster, more and more frequent, just like the endless thunder in the sky. Until a certain moment, all the sounds stopped in an instant, and then disappeared without a trace, as if nothing unusual had happened. In the private villa, Rock opened his eyes, and in an instant, a sharp light flashed, and the whole room seemed brighter. So strong! A terrifying force surged in his body. For a moment, Rock couldn't judge how strong he was. My strength must exceed the unit of tons. According to my rough estimate, it is probably at least 10 tons. You know, 10 tons is the limit of the apprentice level. The prince of the advanced apprentice level has an explosive power of 6 or 7 tons at most. And Rock is only just beginning to enter the extraordinary realm. He is considered a primary apprentice. The combat power of the primary apprentice is comparable to or even exceeds that of the advanced apprentice. The power of the divine legend sequence is undoubtedly revealed at this moment. Moreover, this is only my normal strength. Rock still has the ability to upgrade this heaven-defying talent, which can increase any skill by 5 times. It should be able to challenge the professional level. Professional level, benchmarking the third-level mutants. Moreover, unlike mutants who rely on natural mutation, the orthodox extraordinary achieved through practice will not have serious biases. They will not be like those third-level mutants who can be found weak by ordinary humans and knocked to the ground with a few guns. In addition to the increase in legendary physique, ordinary hot weapons can be completely ignored by Rock. Now Rock, in terms of defense, is probably only one level lower than the Darth Vader. The Darth Vader has been fixed, but Rock can continue to improve. He does not need to reach the professional level, but only needs to reach as a senior apprentice. Rock's physical defense is definitely better than that of the Black Warrior armor. When he reaches the professional level, he may be able to withstand missiles. When he enters the legendary level, it should not be a problem for his physical body to withstand nuclear bombs. This is just the physical body. Chaos Knight is a knight, but not just a knight. Chaos is the mother of all things. The moment he steps into this extraordinary sequence, a special source of chaos magic is generated in Rock's body. The source of chaos magic is all the source of magic. The magic ability of Chaos Knight is not inferior to that of the legendary mage sequence of the same level. Unfortunately, I don't know any magic now. I'll go to the fairy tale world and learn some magic and martial arts when I have time. Rock began to carefully feel the changes in his body. The extraordinary body must be very different from the mortal body. Strength is just strength. If you can't understand everything you have, you may not be able to exert your full strength. Suddenly, Rock seemed to have thought of something and said, "Light Curtain, can you show my personal attribute list?" Even the attributes of the extraordinary seeds can be displayed, there is no reason why it cannot display my personal attribute list. As Rock's voice fell, the light curtain really emerged. Host, Rock. Level, Elementary Apprentice. Sequence, Chaos Knight, Divine Legend. Talent, Legendary Physique, Ability Upgrade, Heaven's Chosen, Magic and Martial Arts, Chaos Magic Source. Exclusive, Legendary State Chaos Deification. Skills, none. Strange items, none. Of the 4 talents, the first 2 were obtained as rewards, the first 3 were obtained as rewards, and the last 2 were obtained spontaneously after specializing in them. One was a magic and martial arts practitioner, and the other was magic with all attributes. These were not unexpected. Instead, the inexplicably appearing exclusive skills attracted Rock's attention. His consciousness sank into it, and after a moment, Rock suddenly realized. The extraordinary sequence can be divided into 4 qualities, ordinary, rare, legendary, and legendary. The higher the quality, the stronger the same level, and the higher the growth limit, which is obvious. The legendary grade is the most special among them. The legendary extraordinary sequence, after refining, is like becoming a legendary larva. As long as it does not die halfway, it will almost certainly become a legendary level and become the world's top fighter. Power. And legends are above that. What is a legend? Legends are myths, unparalleled prodigies sleeping in stories of ancient and modern times, peerless strong men. To make an inappropriate analogy, legends can be understood as Zhao Zilong and Liu Buledin, the top fighting forces in the world, and legends are Li Yuanba, the Monkey King. It is a myth that has been passed down from ancient times to the present. The myths and legends that have been passed down from ancient times to the present are endowed with unique properties, such as Li Yuanba's 5 swords of hatred for the sky and the earth without rings, which are extremely powerful, thus giving birth to a unique legendary form. Each legendary form is unique, and this is also the most powerful exclusive skill of the legendary sequence. Rock was a little eager to move, and he had to find a place to try out his exclusive super move. Chapter 30. As night falls, the sky gradually darkens, but it is not quiet. Instead, it is the favorite nightlife time for young people. But after all, the night is shrouded in shadows, and the light cannot shine into every corner. Where there are shadows, there will naturally be darkness. In particular, this area is called Hell's Kitchen, the territory of the Underground Emperor of New York. Robbery, rape, ice selling and other criminal activities happen almost every moment in this area, especially at night. It is a paradise for crime. Da-da, da-da, da-da. The sound of gun barrels spitting bullets is a unique music in this area. However, today's music seems to be more passionate and explosive than usual. From a distance, you can see fire snakes erupting in the night, and the deafening roar and explosion sound almost become a continuous sound. Damn it! Superior! Must kill her! Dare to offend Jin Bing's majesty, she must be killed. Under the rows of bullets, there is a figure wearing a tights, extremely inflated. The specific appearance cannot be seen clearly, but the curves that almost broke the tights are meaningless. This is a lady, and a lady with the agility of a cat. At this time, this cat-like lady, with the help of the night, keenly avoided a series of bullets pouring down. Her speed was very fast, almost beyond the limit of ordinary people. But, even so, facing a bunch of bullets, it is difficult to perfectly dodge every bullet. Fortunately, the tights on her body that were almost deformed were not made of ordinary materials and had a certain bulletproof effect. If the material was not particularly excellent, it would probably be burst by this cat-like lady in the first place. But, even so, this lady has been a little bit overwhelmed. After all, it is just a tights, and the bulletproof effect is not that strong, not to mention that even if it is bulletproof, there is still a sense of bullets hitting the body. She already feels that she is transmitting a burning pain all over her body. Careless. Before, by chance, she had taken a strange potion similar to the legendary super soldier potion, which gave her speed and strength far beyond the ordinary. She thought that although the United States was big, she could get around with her strength, but she didn't expect that she would be caught after just coming to the famous Hell's Kitchen in the United States. If this goes on, it's probably only a matter of time before she is caught. Headache. 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 At this moment, a villa appeared in the lady's sight. Villas, or small private villas, are almost everywhere in the United States. In theory, there is nothing special, but this one looks very different. Not only is there only one villa, but the nearby area is very quiet, and only this villa has light, as if there is only one resident in the entire area. Something is wrong. In a place like Hell's Kitchen, there is something wrong with such a villa. The cat-like lady squinted her eyes and turned around. A cunning smile like a cat appeared at the corner of her mouth. She grabbed an eaves and used the force of falling to quickly rush towards the villa. From time to time, the sound of bullets could be heard in my ears, densely packed and connected into one. It felt like I was not in the city, but more like I was on a battlefield. Rock frowned. This broken place Hell's Kitchen is getting more and more outrageous. In the past, there were only a few noises occasionally, most likely some little bastards looking for excitement at night. At most they would send away a few little karami in one wave, and that was the end of it. I'm used to it, and it works just like an alarm clock. What's going on today? Are there gang wars? Or do they have no money to buy fireworks, so they use guns as fireworks and do some weird celebrations? The most important thing is that the noise seems to be getting denser and closer. Rock didn't really want to pay attention to it. After all, it would be strange if there were no gunshots in this broken place Hell's Kitchen one day. A glass of fine wine appeared in his hand, swaying gently. Suddenly, Rock stopped shaking his hand, raised his head slightly, looked in one direction, and showed an interested look. My eaves don't need a cleaner, especially at this time. After the words fell, a chuckle sounded, and a figure, as charming and agile as a cat, came to a high place along the window and looked at Rock below with interest. Looking at this sudden figure, Rock's expression did not show any surprise, but a hint of interest. This hot tights, charming and agile skills, and the cat-like temperament. Catwoman. No, I've studied it carefully before. This world does not incorporate any characters from the DC universe. It's just a simple mix of various superheroes under Marvel. Then, the answer is obvious. Black Cat Felicia, Marvel's Catwoman. Black Cat Felicia looked at Rock with interest. You don't seem afraid at all. Why be afraid? A lady wearing tights and with such a hot body appeared in front of me in the middle of the night. Isn't this a wonderful encounter? The Black Cat Felicia looked at Rock with a smile. Thank you for your compliment. You are very interesting. If we were to meet outside, I would love to have a romantic date with you. Unfortunately, it is not appropriate now. With that, Black Cat was ready to leave. The reason why she came here was just because she felt that this small villa was very special. She wanted to bet whether there would be any problems here. For example, this was actually the secret residence of Kingpin, the big boss of Hell's Kitchen, and it was just right to kidnap Kingpin and escape. Unfortunately, there was no Kingpin, only a very handsome man who spoke very interestingly. Rock just smiled and watched the other person's back as he left, neither speaking nor stopping him. Black Cat, who was about to run out, suddenly turned around and said angrily, "You don't even know how to stop me." Rock was still smiling faintly, saying nothing. His pair of indifferent eyes seemed to see through Black Cat. Black Cat was a little guilty. Okay, I admit, I was pretending. I wanted you to help me. You must be very special to have an independent villa in such a place with no other residents around. Can you help me? At this time, Rock looked a little strange and shook his head. This villa is a gift to me. As for the fact that there are no other residents around, don't you know that this is a newly built house? It has not been officially put on sale yet. Black Cat was stunned. She never expected that this was the reason. So, as smart as she is just fighting wits with the air? It's not impossible to help you. Black Cat's eyes lit up, and he knew it, this handsome man with a very special temperament must be extraordinary. Then, give me a reason why I should help you. The Black Cat turned its cunning eyes and straightened its extremely plump curves that were about to burst its tights. How about a hot lady to accompany you through a boring night? Rock saw through the Black Cat's little thoughts. Cats are curious, like to play, like to tease people, and it is not strange to turn around and run away when it is safe. However, Rock nodded with a smile. Sure. Isn't it fun to tease a cat? Boom. At this moment, the door of the villa was violently smashed open, and rows of fully armed soldiers swarmed in. The previous one was not smooth, so I changed a chapter. Chapter 31. Looking at the rows of fully armed soldiers wearing bulletproof vests and carrying submachine guns, Rock's expression remained calm, just like seeing a few little mice breaking in. You are neither a beautiful lady nor polite. You are not welcome here. The leader, who seemed to be a black man, said coldly. Damn you little piece of trash, we don't need your welcome. Along with the black man's scolding, rows of submachine gun muzzles instantly pointed at Rock, and at the same time, infrared traces fell on Rock's body. It's been a long time since anyone yelled at me, and it's been a long time since anyone pointed a gun at me. It's quite fresh. As he said this, Rock stood up. Damn it, stand still, don't move, or we will shoot immediately. Rock ignored the threats of these people and took a step forward. They were all Jin Bing's subordinates, who had been in the dark zone for many years. Naturally, they were not afraid of things. Seeing that Rock did not listen to the threats, they opened fire in an instant. Strings of fire snakes erupted, and bullets poured in like violent storms. Bang, bang, bang. A series of sparks burst out, and the bullets hit the body, as if hitting the hardest steel. Except for splashing layers of sparks, there was no other effect. Oh, no, it can't be said that there was no effect at all. There were many more holes in Rock's clothes. After all, this was not some extraordinary clothing like a Superman suit, and it was not bulletproof. However, the broken clothes revealed some strong muscles, which seemed to make a group of soldiers look like they had seen a ghost. It was not technology, nor was it a superpower. It was just using the flesh, pure flesh, to resist the impact of submachine gun bullets. Monster, monster! Someone finally couldn't stand the fear in his heart anymore, put down his submachine gun, turned around and ran away. You've been beating me for a long time, and now you're just thinking of running away. Isn't that a bit rude? He raised his foot and stomped on the ground. Boom! The ground cracked instantly, and a materialized crack spread rapidly, instantly knocking the fleeing soldier away. He slammed into the wall beside him, cracking the wall abruptly, and a mouthful of old blood spurted out. His breath became extremely weak, and in a moment, he died completely. When the others saw this scene, they were instantly petrified, staring at it in a daze. At this time, a soldier standing in the back suddenly gritted his teeth, became ruthless, quickly took out the rocket, and fired it directly without mercy. With a sharp tail, the rocket shot towards Rock at a rapid speed. The next moment, a slender hand, grabbed the rocket in his hand so easily, as if grabbing a toy. The rocket, it seems, is not powerful enough. As soon as he finished speaking, Rock's mouth curled up with an evil arc, and he exerted force. Boom! The rocket was actually crushed by him directly, and there was a loud bang, and a wave of fire as high as a person rose up. After a moment, the fire wave dissipated, and the situation on the spot made everyone present, including the black cat Felicia, stare wide-eyed. Rock suffered the explosion of a rocket head-on, but he seemed to be unharmed. Except that his clothes were more torn, there was no other change. Monster! Monster! This time, all the warriors belonging to Kingpin lost their courage completely, and were horrified, panicked, and afraid. Hwalala! Almost without any hesitation, they threw down their guns and ran away. This kind of monster that can withstand rockets and remain unscathed is not something they can deal with at all. At this time, Rock shook his head. It's too late to run now. It just so happens that I have almost had enough fun. Obviously, Rock was just using these guys to test his own defense, and the result was that Rock was very satisfied. Now, it's time to send you off. As soon as he finished speaking, a gold coin appeared in Rock's palm. He didn't even need to aim, he just casually threw it. In an instant, the golden coin seemed to have transformed into the most terrifying hidden weapon in the world. It quickly passed through the field, easily piercing through the soldiers one by one, and finally, it completely sank into the wall and disappeared. It was unknown how many meters deep it penetrated into the wall. 1 second, 2 seconds, clatter, one by one, fully armed soldiers fell like dominoes, and a strong smell of blood quickly filled the air. At this time, the field was in addition to Rock and the black cat Felicia, there was only one figure still standing. It was the little black guy who had been in the front row and had spoken rudely to Rock. At this moment, the little black guy's face, which was originally black, was miraculously turning pale. He turned white without any skill. If the little black guy's fellow tribesmen saw it, they would probably be envious. Unfortunately, the little black guy was not happy at all at this time. His face was extremely pale, and his legs were shaking like a big sieve. There was even a faint feeling of some kind of liquid flowing down his legs. Ugly, how ugly! Rock said with disdain, raised his hand, gestured like a gun, and pointed at the little black boy. The little black boy froze, and then leaned back straight. After a moment, the black cat Felicia said curiously, "What kind of power is this? Why did he die when I gave him a blowjob? Haha, that's not a skill." This little black guy was scared to death by himself. Ugly guy, ugly way to die. Black cat Felicia widened her beautiful eyes, scared to death. Amazing. Rock glanced at her. Aren't you scared? Black cat Felicia patted her chest hard. Scared? Why should I be afraid? I'm the chivalrous thief Black Cat, I've seen a lot. Even though she was wearing a tights, such a pat still caused a wave of shocking waves. Of course, it might not be just because of the pat. The little cat looked not scared at all on the surface, but was actually a little scared, and her body was shaking slightly. Rock didn't expose it. He smiled slightly, turned and walked in one direction. Where are you going? Black cat Felicia asked anxiously. Change your clothes and go collect your debts. Debt collection. That's right, debt collection. Does anyone owe you money? You can say that. Who is that? Kingpin. Kingpin's men violently smashed his door. It's not too much for Rock to go to his door and ask for some compensation, right? As for how much, the entire Hell's Kitchen is good enough, isn't it? Chapter 32. There is a building in the entire Hell's Kitchen. It is the tallest building, several floors higher than other high-rise buildings. It is high enough to overlook the entire Hell's Kitchen. And this is the place where the ruler of Hell's Kitchen, Jin Bing, likes to stay the most. At this time, Jin Bing is staying at the highest point of the highest floor, looking down at the entire Hell's Kitchen. Standing at this angle, anyone or anything seems extremely small. Jin Bing likes this feeling, likes this kind of superiority over everything. He likes to control everything and also likes to look down on everything, except for his family. A cigar was lit by his subordinates. Jin Bing held the cigar in his mouth. Facing the burly monster like Jin Bing, the thick cigar was no different from an ordinary cigarette, small and slender. A faint smoke was lingering, and under the cover of the smoke, Jin Bing's majestic and oppressive eyes were revealed. This is the oppressive feeling of the underground emperor of New York. Suddenly, the phone on the side rang. Jin Bing did not move at all, and even his eyes did not shift at all. The subordinate quickly answered the phone, lowered his voice as much as possible, and whispered something. After a moment, the subordinate showed obvious horror on his face. He walked behind Jin Bing and stood there respectfully. Even though his expression was already very urgent and shocked, he did not dare to speak casually, because the person in front of him was Jin Bing, the real king of Hell's Kitchen. Finally, with another wisp of smoke spraying out of his nasal cavity, Jin Bing's not very pleasant and somewhat hoarse voice rang out. What's the matter? At this moment, the subordinate dared to speak and recounted everything he had just heard at the fastest speed in his life. After listening to the subordinate's report, Jin Bing's face showed some interest. A not so well-behaved cat provoked him, but Jin Bing didn't care much. He just sent a team to hunt down the unwell cat. And now, it seems that an interesting accident has occurred. The whole team failed to hunt down the cat and was wiped out instead? The cat doesn't have that kind of ability, even though the cat looks like an extraordinary existence beyond ordinary people. There have always been some extraordinary existences beyond ordinary people in this world. As the Underground Emperor of New York, how could Jin Bing not know this? Even some of his partners are the owners of real extraordinary powers, such as the hand. But Jin Bing doesn't care. He is not an extraordinary existence, but he is confident that he will never be weaker than those so-called extraordinary people. Self-confidence comes from extreme self-confidence in strength and power, which even makes Jin Bing form a kind of contempt for those extraordinary people who are not too powerful. Check it out. There seems to be some interesting little mice in Hell's Kitchen. Yes. The subordinate responded respectfully, and then turned and left. Jin didn't like to be long-winded, nor did he like others to refute him. No matter what the order was, the subordinates were only qualified to execute it. Either complete it or die, there was no other option. The door was opened, and the subordinate, who had originally lowered his head slightly, suddenly froze all over. "Who are you?" He stopped talking before he finished, not because he didn't want to continue, but because he couldn't continue. A hand grabbed his neck and lifted him up with one hand. With a light squeeze and a click, this top henchman under Kingpin, who was definitely a well-known figure in the underworld, lost his struggle and collapsed. Throwing him to the ground, Rock turned around and looked at the little cat behind him, the black cat Felicia. "This time, it won't be bloody, right?" The black cat Felicia looked proud and said, "Yeah, it's not bad this time." Rock smiled slightly. A little cat would be boring if it didn't have the pride and wildness of a cat. Rock was very interested in this little black cat. He raised his head and looked forward. At this time, Jin Bing, who heard the noise, also turned his head, still holding a cigar in his mouth. He only glanced at the corpse of his subordinate and didn't pay too much attention to it. A rough smoke spewed out of his mouth and stayed in the air for a long time. "It seems that you are the one who wiped out my team. You mean those impolite guys who broke my door? It just so happens that I came to see you for this reason." "Find me?" "Yes, your subordinates broke my door, I shouldn't ask you for some compensation." This obviously sounded outrageous, but Jin Bing nodded. "So that's why some compensation is needed. However, I may need to trouble you to pick it up in person." "That's right, I should be allowed to take my things myself." It was just a normal conversation, but Felicia the black cat inexplicably felt a chill, as if accidentally, a murderous atmosphere filled the room. Unconsciously, the black cat took a few steps back. "So, let's start now." "Great." With a smile, Jin Bing took a deep breath. With Jin Bing's lung capacity, he could burn a cigar with just this one puff. The long ash slowly fell down. At the moment of landing, bang! The ground in two places exploded at the same time. Rock and Jin Bing moved at the same time. There was no sign, but they were in perfect harmony. One was like a violent ancient beast, and the other was like an ancient warrior. They rushed towards each other at the same time. The two fists collided in mid-air. Boom! The purest collision of power caused a terrifying movement. A wave of air that seemed to be materialized shook and impacted all around. The wardrobe, table, and sofa were shaking almost at the same time. No, it was not those objects that were shaking, but the whole room, which was shaking in the collision of pure power. Even this vibration continued to spread outward. Crack! 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 All the glass collapsed at this moment. Chapter 33. The power exploded completely. Rock did not move, but Kingpin was forced back 3 steps, each step leaving a deep footprint on the floor tiles. "I have to admit that in some cases, you are really a monster," Rock exclaimed. Ever since he changed his job to Chaos Knight, a super powerful extraordinary sequence. No matter what he pinched or hit, it was like hitting a balloon, and it would break at the touch. The kingpin in front of him was a rare exception. Not only was he powerful, but his defense was also not weak at all. He was hard, tough, and extremely resistant to beatings. He felt very comfortable when he was fighting. Relying on his own strength, with an ordinary body, without any extraordinary baptism, he can actually temper the human body to this extent. Rock even had a feeling that ordinary pistol bullets could not break through Kingpin's muscle defense. At this moment, Rock looked at Kingpin with a little strangeness. Before, he felt that he could just kill Kingpin and take over the entire Hell's Kitchen. Now, his thoughts have changed. It would be a waste to kill such a strange body. Rock still has an extraordinary seed of the giant sequence. Of course, it is not to recover. It is impossible to recover such an underground emperor. If he can be refined into a puppet, it may be a good decision. Your look makes me feel a little uncomfortable. King Bing's face began to become gloomy. He leaned over and rushed towards Rock again. Bang! 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 With the purest and most powerful body in human history, coupled with unimaginable skilled fighting skills, King Bing at this moment seemed to have turned into a killing beast. Military fighting skills. Krav Maga. Muay Thai. Even Beiji. The violent power was fully exerted to the extreme. King Bing seemed to have become a house-destroying demon, wantonly destroying everything in the room. In response to King Bing's super offensive, Rock did not dodge, nor did he have any unique fighting skills. What he had was pure power, and the ultimate power suppressed all the fancy things. With the collision of power again and again, the floor tiles shattered and cracked, the ceiling kept falling, and even the walls began to show terrifying cracks. The black cat Felicia on the side was weak, scared, and a little eager to see. Cats, always curious and cute animals. But Felicia the black cat looked up at the room that was about to be torn into a spider web, her heart pounding. Is it going to collapse? This is the 66th floor, God! If this place completely collapses, and accidentally causes the entire building to tilt. Felicia the black cat's chest was filled with waves, her heart trembling non-stop. It will kill people. It will really kill people. She didn't think she could survive from such a height. Finally, the poor room structure could no longer withstand the destruction of the two evil gods and began to completely collapse. Ah! 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 It's really going to collapse. No matter how curious she is, Black Cat Felicia is still just a freshman. As for her figure, she has developed well. Hearing Black Cat Felicia's horrified screams, Rock turned around and looked at her, then looked at the room that was beginning to completely collapse. Unfortunately, I haven't had enough fun yet. The environment doesn't wait for anyone. Next, it's time to get serious. One of Rock's hands seemed to turn into light in an instant. Pure light, extreme light, but not bursting. The surface was surging with mysterious and vast chaotic colors. A mere kingpin was not qualified to allow Rock to completely release the legendary state. One hand was enough. The next moment, Rock suddenly rushed up and punched. Boom! Although Kingpin was at a disadvantage, he could still barely hold on. Facing this punch, one of his arms exploded in an instant. Before he could even scream, he was knocked unconscious by a punch. Instant kill. A person who had trained his body to the extreme, enough to compete with Spider-Man for a short time, was killed instantly by such a punch. The punch that liberated the body caused an even more terrifying gas explosion. This time, it was not just one room, but several floors nearby that began to collapse. Even the balance of the entire building was affected, and began to shake and tilt. Rock walked calmly to the black cat Felicia and held this extremely overgrown cat in his arms. Would you like to have a super exciting bungee jumping activity? Can I choose to refuse? Of course, no. Picking up the black cat Felicia and casually picking up one of Kingpin's legs, Rock jumped up. 66 floors, nearly 200 meters high, this is more than just a thrill. At least, the always bold and curious black cat is not much different from an ordinary girl at this moment. The sharp cry almost pierces people's eardrums. In the end, Rock, who can no longer bear it, directly blocked her mouth. As for what to block, it must not be his hands. Boom! Falling to the ground with a bang, Rock's legs sank deeply into the ground. Looking around, under the stunned eyes of the people around, Rock calmly pulled out his legs, held the black cat in one hand, and left calmly. Waiting to return to, well, not to return, but to find a room at random. The original room was still full of corpses, and Rock was not interested in keeping company with corpses. As for the empty room, this is Hell's Kitchen. There is a lack of everything except empty rooms. After all, most people are definitely not the ones who dare to be neighbors with the underground emperor. Throwing Kingpin aside casually, looking at the bloody Kingpin, the black cat Felicia couldn't help showing the curiosity of a cat. Why did you bring this corpse back? During the fall, Rock spent most of his energy protecting this chubby cat, but he didn't have the extra time to take care of Kingpin. As you can imagine, he was beaten badly by Rock, and he was unprotected when he fell, almost hitting the ground face first. The fact that he didn't turn into a pile of meat paste directly was already a sign of Kingpin's strong and outrageous body. At this time, calling it a corpse is not an exaggeration at all. He's not dead yet, he's still breathing. The corners of Felicia's mouth twitched slightly. She couldn't tell whether this suspected corpse was still breathing. Soon, Felicia's attention shifted away from Kingpin and she squinted at Rock, with a strange look in her eyes. Now that you have defeated Kingpin, will you take over as the underground emperor in the future? A powerful, handsome, new underground emperor is a terrifying existence for ordinary people, but for a cat like Black Cat who likes excitement, the attraction is simply off the charts. Even, inadvertently, Black Cat rubbed his slender, straight, and voluptuous legs. Underground Emperor? Not interested. Black Cat Felicia was stunned for a moment. Why? The level is too low. A group of underground emperors who can only deal with gangsters have no appeal to Rock. They are ridiculously low class, and even dare to threaten the small trash like the Hand. In fact, what exactly is the purpose of taking over Hell's Kitchen? Rock had already had an idea in his mind. I plan to turn Hell's Kitchen into an underground black market. Black Cat Felicia frowned. Isn't this even lower than the underground emperor? There are many underground black markets. I know several of them. What if it is the underground black market in the other world? Black Cat Felicia is not an old antique who has never read novels. Her eyes widened instantly. Diagon Alley or Reverse Alley? Similar, but not exactly. This place, Hell's Kitchen, will become the gathering place of extraordinary beings from all over the world. Isn't such a king more interesting than the underground emperor of New York? The breathing of the Black Cat Felicia suddenly became heavy. She is playful and full of curiosity about unknown things. Creating an underground black market in the other world like Diagon Alley and Upside Down Alley and becoming the king of the black market in the other world is simply too cool. I want it, count me in, you must count me in. The Black Cat Felicia threw herself directly into Rock's arms, circled the other's arm deeply into the ravine, and seduced Rock awkwardly and enthusiastically. A smile flashed across Rock's face. The idea of creating an underground black market in the other world and becoming the arbitrator of the other world is very interesting. However, Rock can be a leader and a force. To be honest, he is a little hesitant when it comes to various details. At this time, a perfect executor is needed. Coincidentally, Rock remembered that the Black Cat Felicia was born a young lady. The Black Cat's father was a great thief cat, a very rich guy. Born a young lady, she had organized her assets and company in an orderly manner since she was a child. She was also an excellent student at the Empire State University. This little cat has the talent for execution. Otherwise, Rock, how could I reveal so much to this little kitty? Chapter 34. A light door appeared out of nowhere, and the Black Warrior stepped out. In the palace, the Queen, who usually enjoyed herself, was not in her room at this time. Fortunately, the Queen's maids were familiar with the Black Warrior and quickly guided the Black Warrior to a more secret room. As soon as he entered this room, he could feel a weird feeling, mysterious, depressing, and all kinds of strange colors that lit up from time to time, and there was a mysterious and strange feeling everywhere. Yes, this is a bit like a witch. Witches are a branch of witches, so how can they not be a bit mysterious? Hearing Rock's familiar voice, the seductive Queen walked out with a snake-like waist twisting. "My lord, you are finally back. I encountered some problems, so I was a little slow." Rock did not continue to explain, but asked with interest, "Are you making potions now?" Hearing this, the Queen was a little distressed. "Yes, I am studying potion science, although it is just some basic potion formulas, but the chance of success is much lower than I thought." "Why did you suddenly think of studying potions?" This time, the Queen looked a little heavy. "Because I found that there is something wrong with this world." "Is there a problem?" Rock raised his eyebrows. "What's the problem?" "The so-called extraordinary, no matter what sequence, in summary, is to absorb some special components in the air to make oneself stronger. I named this component the magic factor." Rock also became more serious. "This thing, in the East, is called spiritual energy." Without interrupting the Queen continued. "The concentration of magic factors in our world is very low, very low. I don't know the reason, but according to my estimation, in this world, no matter how talented one is, it is difficult to break through the professional level. This is the conclusion I have drawn after summarizing all the extraordinary information marked by the devil. In this world, there is no inheritance above the professional level. So, I set my sights on alchemy. The concentration of magic factor is too low, so I can only use some special potions to speed up my promotion." Rock nodded. The Queen's idea was completely correct. As for the problem of magic factor concentration, the cause was unclear, but it was very likely true. After all, this world was a special world for obtaining extraordinary seeds, similar to a novice task. However, Rock looked the Queen up and down. "Since you didn't succeed, why do I feel that your life force is much stronger than before?" The Queen before was only equivalent to a half-crippled junior apprentice, but now, it feels that she is only one step away from the devil, close to a mid-level apprentice. The Queen's beautiful eyes showed some strangeness. "I don't know, but not long after you went to the mirror world, I suddenly became much stronger. Not only did I become stronger, but the speed at which I absorbed magic factors was also twice as fast as before. If it weren't for this reason, I wouldn't have noticed the problem of low magic factor concentration." Rock's eyes were filled with surprise. He became stronger for no apparent reason, and his aptitude also became stronger? Suddenly, Rock seemed to have thought of something. Homotope? True self. Every identical individual in the parallel universe is a homotope. Killing homotopes, absorbing the power of all homotopes, and creating the only true self, similar settings in previous lives are not uncommon. Perhaps, it was because Rock killed the reversed individual in the mirror world that the Queen became much stronger. If this is true, Rock may have underestimated the Queen's potential. Snow White, as one of the most famous fairy tales, has formed a series of derivative works, including some derivative works with a high force index. In this case, by constantly killing those Queen homotopes, the growth limit of the Queen in front of him may be enhanced to a very amazing degree. Rock stroked his chin. In the past, at most the Queen was considered a very charming witch. She was of sexual interest, but that was all. It would be an exaggeration to call her a plaything, but it was not far off the mark. Now, we could try to cultivate her. The witch was only of the ordinary level of the extraordinary sequence. If she continued to grow like this, it would not be impossible for her to transform into a rare or even legendary sequence. A legendary sequence would definitely become a legend if it did not perish, but legend was not the limit, and there was still a chance to become above legend. As for the legendary sequence, it would probably take transformation into the Witch King to have a glimmer of hope. After thinking for a moment, Rock stretched out his hand, and a bloody corpse fell from the sky and landed in front of the Queen. The Queen looked at him for a few seconds. She was indifferent at first, but slowly, her expression began to become solemn. What a strong body! It gives me the feeling that this body is probably much stronger than the prince's. The prince is a high-level knight apprentice, and can be regarded as the strongest fighting force in this world, but that's just the way it is. He is the tallest among the short people. Kingpin is different. With a human body, he has been tempered to the point where he can challenge Spider-Man. With more than 20 tons of strength and various superpowers, Spider-Man is definitely a professional level fighter. He is not ordinary, and he is at least in the upper middle level among the professional level. This is certainly because Spider-Man is a novice and Kingpin has extremely rich combat experience, but Kingpin's physical strength is also unquestionable. He fought Rock head-on for 10 moves without getting much weaker. If we use a level to describe it, pseudo-professional level, or quasi-professional level, is more appropriate, and it is naturally much stronger than the high-level apprentice of the prince who is the tallest among the short people. Rock did not explain the origin of Kingpin in detail, but just said, "Is there a way to refine a puppet? I want to refine this guy into a puppet." Once the refining is successful, and the extraordinary seeds of the giant series are injected into it, Jinbing will definitely be able to transform into a true professional level combat force, enough to compete head-on with the extraordinary people known for their strength, such as the Stone Man and the Steel Man. The Queen thought for a while, then suddenly ran to the side and began to search through a pile of books. Found it! Secret Art of Puppetry, Immortal Puppet. Chapter 35. Gurgle, gurgle, the sound of boiling liquid continued to sound. In a huge jar-like container, various gases were emitting at this time. The colorful liquid seemed to be boiling, and bubbles of the same color kept floating out. In the middle of this mysterious liquid was the colorful liquid of Jinbing. The Queen looked at Jinbing in the jar and frowned. This guy's vitality is too weak. If this goes on, what will be refined is not a living puppet, but a dead object without life. Puppets are also divided into dead puppets and living puppets. As the name suggests, dead puppets are puppets without vitality, such as mechanical puppets, wooden puppets, etc. Living puppets are made with living beings. There is a big difference between dead puppets and living puppets. Not only because of the materials, but more importantly, if dead puppets want to become stronger, they can only rely on means such as replacing materials. In other words, dead puppets do not have spontaneous growth, and they also need other wisdom to control them. Living puppets are different. Not only can they control themselves, but also need other wisdom to control them. What's more important is that it can maintain a certain growth potential. Therefore, the value of a living puppet is greater than that of a dead puppet. The book Puppet Secrets on Dead Puppet that the Queen took out is only a relatively basic puppet secret that can create puppets with excellent healing abilities, but it is a secret technique for creating living puppets. Rock did not hesitate, took out a light-like object, threw it gently, and it fell towards the golden one. That is, the extraordinary seed. The Queen naturally knew the extraordinary seed. After all, she had seen Rock take out the extraordinary seed from the devil's body. Rock nodded and said no more. The Queen did not ask any more questions. The extraordinary seed can help ordinary creatures step into the extraordinary. At the moment of injection, ordinary creatures will undergo a certain transformation. It is also a good way to strengthen the activity of some Jinbing. When a supernatural seed entered the body, Jin Bing's body trembled slightly, and the mysterious liquid around him boiled more and more seriously. It's time. The queen began to quickly draw a complex magic circle. Lines of magic lines connected around the jar, and after a while, the magic circle was completely formed. After drawing the magic circle, Rock walked in front of the magic circle, cut his fingertips, and a drop of blood instantly fell into the magic circle. In an instant, the entire magic circle was awakened, flashing with amazing light. At the same time, the mysterious liquid in the jar seemed to have the same frequency, flashing bright light synchronously. In an instant, these lights intertwined together to form a colorful light egg. Time passed slowly, and as time went by, gradually, the bright colors on the surface of the colorful light egg began to dissipate, as if all the energy was absorbed by the things nurtured in it. It's coming out. The queen looked at the light egg that began to tremble slightly with a burning gaze. This was her first time to refine this kind of puppet. If it succeeds, she can repeat these methods to refine a few more puppets in the future. Although there are not many materials for living puppets in this world, don't forget that Rock didn't take the prince's body and the devil's body. They all fell into her hands. If successful, the queen can completely refine a puppet that is not inferior to the prince's when he was alive. So, at this moment, the queen is more looking forward to the success of the refining than Rock. And at this moment, suddenly, a change occurred. The puppet, which originally only needed to quietly break the light egg on the surface of the body to be completely formed, suddenly vibrated violently. Roar! 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 A series of roars like wild beasts sounded. It was as if something terrifying was reviving. Not only that, the light egg that was not small to begin with, actually began to expand inexplicably. In the blink of an eye, it expanded to twice its size. At this time, it was almost touching the ceiling. Why is this happening? No, it shouldn't be. The queen said in disbelief. But at this time, Rock was very calm. Don't worry, this may not be a bad thing. He seemed to have thought of something, and an expectant look appeared on his face. The next moment, with a bang, the light eggs that were expanding all around exploded directly, and a terrifying figure emerged from it. Nearly 4 meters tall, with muscles that had expanded to the extreme all over his body, muscles that had expanded to the extreme, even forming hardened armor similar to the memory armor Titan. Just standing there, it gives people a terrifying sense of oppression like an ancient beast, as if the air is about to solidify. The guy in front of him, except for a face that is still vaguely recognizable as Kingpin, seems to have transformed into another species. Seeing this scene, Rock did not get angry but laughed. It's really an unexpected gain. This living puppet naturally can't increase its strength casually. Whether it's the refined materials or the Jinbing itself, even if you add the giant-type extraordinary seed, it can only refine a Jinbing puppet comparable to the professional level. It's said to be comparable to the professional level, but in fact, it's comparable to the low-level professional level. But the one in front of us is definitely more than that. The suffocating sense of oppression alone is definitely not something that a primary professional level can have. This puppet naturally can't mutate for no reason. There is only one possibility for this change. The process of refining the puppet triggered Rock's special talent ability upgrade. All the abilities used by Rock will be amplified 5-fold. 5 times the puppet refining amplification. Just transformed into this armored giant puppet that looks like an ancient ferocious beast. Boom! Boom! The armored giant puppet moved. The jar it was carrying was instantly shattered with just one step. Every step was like a small mountain moving. When it reached Rock, bang! The armored giant puppet knelt on one knee, and the ground exploded instantly. Master! A buzzing sound like thunder sounded, which was also very oppressive. The lowered head showed his submissive side. Name: Armored Giant Puppet. Quality: Rare. Level: Intermediate Professional Level, Extreme. Talents: Armored Body, Powerful Healing. Introduction: a powerful living puppet created accidentally. Its rare grade gives it the potential to grow into a professional level extreme. If it is integrated with the blood of a giant legendary creature, there is a 50% chance that it will transform into a legendary giant puppet. Chapter 36. In the early morning, warm light shines through the window and fills the entire room. The room is messy and full of scattered clothes. Tight dresses, queen outfits, maid outfits, all kinds of clothing are thrown on the ground at random, some are torn to pieces, some are crumpled into a ball, and some are soaked for unknown reasons. Finally, a sturdy and perfect upper body is revealed on the gorgeous big bed. At this time, this upper body is covered with all kinds of marks. One can imagine how crazy the origin of these marks is. The dazzling sunlight fell on his eyes, and Rock slowly opened his eyes. He casually moved away the slender arm on his body, and gently took back his hand that was pressed down by the softness. Looking at the dense bite marks on his arm, Rock shook his head silently. What a crazy woman! But I have to admit that the taste of a witch is great. After casually putting on a coat and simply washing and tidying up, Rock walked to the balcony and quietly bathed in the sun. In the Marvel world, kill Kingpin and take over the territory. Tong world, refine puppets, taste the taste of witches, and before that, I went back to Alibaba world to see the little maid Elsa. What should be done has been done. Next, it is time to consider the next fairy tale world. Thinking of this, Rock opened the light curtain and glanced at it indifferently. In an instant, his eyes suddenly shrank, and an unprecedented shock appeared on his face. How is it possible? A pair of slender and white arms held Rock's neck, and the queen, who was still a little dazed, leaned towards Rock with great fascination. Honey, what's wrong with you? Rock took a deep breath and hugged the witch queen in his arms. Nothing. He suppressed the shock in his heart and looked at the light screen again. At this moment, he suddenly found that the situation that made him scream with horror before had not changed. Sleeping Beauty, Alienation 5. The last fairy tale world that had not been conquered had not changed. What shocked Rock was, Alienation 5. Rock would not be wrong, absolutely not wrong. When he first saw this world, it was definitely only Alienation 1. A world of Alienation 1 was enough for Rock to face up to. What was going on now that it inexplicably became Alienation 5? He hadn't even fought in the world of Alienation 1, and came directly to Alienation 5. Was he going to send him to death? You know, the world of Sleeping Beauty itself was not dangerous. That world clearly had multiple witches. There are 13 witches in total. The witches there can even make everyone in the palace fall into a deep sleep at will. Rock would never believe that witches of this level would be just apprentice-level witches. What's more terrifying is that there are 12 witches who are suspected to be professional-level witches. Even if those 12 join forces, they may not be able to defeat the 13th. After all, the curse that killed Sleeping Beauty cannot be broken even by the 12 witches joining forces. They can only change it into a sleep of 100 years. Hey, huff! Rock was panting heavily. The Sleeping Beauty world of Alienation 5 is definitely not something that Rock can clear now. If according to Rock's previous speculation, Alienation 1 is a world influenced by gods, then Alienation May 5 have developed into a world where gods descended to the earth and they are directly fighting each other. Light curtain, there is something wrong with this fairy tale world, I don't accept it. It's a situation where you are obviously going to die, only a fool would choose it. A series of words suddenly appeared on the light curtain. Start world detection. Testing. Testing completed. Current world status, God War, detection task completion rate, 0. Trigger the rest mechanism. Resting. Tip, due to the world mutation, the difficulty of the task exceeds the host's tolerance limit, and the compensation mechanism is activated. Compensation, enable the second level authority, world refresh, world fusion. Compensation: enable the aiming search function. In an instant, 2 messages were transmitted to Rock's brain, which were specific explanations of the 2 compensations. The second-level authority, which was originally supposed to be obtained after Rock cleared the 3 basic worlds, is now directly given to Rock as compensation. As for these 2 authorities, World Refresh: you can refresh and replace the fairy tale world you are not satisfied with other fairy tale worlds, even if you haven't started to conquer the world yet. World Fusion: after the strategy is completed, you can choose to merge the conquered world into a world. The level of the merged world will be improved, the territory will become larger, and the concentration of magic factors will increase. Of course, whether it is World Refresh or World Fusion, it is not without any restrictions. You can get the authority once you conquer a world. Now that Rock has conquered 2 worlds, he has the privilege to refresh or merge them twice. As for the second compensation, the aiming search, how can I describe this function? It is a powerful but useless function. The effect of the aiming search is that Rock can directly select a world, and the next time the possibility can be greatly increased, and the world selected by Rock can be refreshed. It is naturally good to directly select the world, but the problem is that it only greatly increases the probability. Even if you increase it to 99%, as long as it is not 100%, who knows when it can be refreshed. After thinking about it, Rock still turned on the aiming search. Aim Aladdin's magic lamp world. If we talk about the world in fairy tales that is most attractive to Rock, the world of Aladdin's magic lamp is 100% recommended. Tip: the world of Aladdin's magic lamp has been targeted. Tip: with each refresh, the probability of the appearance of the world of Aladdin's magic lamp increases by 20%, the probability can be stacked. Stackable? This is good news, and the probability is stacked by 20% each time, which means that even if your luck is bad, you can refresh Aladdin's magic lamp after refreshing 5 times. At this moment, Rock's mood was relieved a lot. After a moment of silence, Rock did not choose to refresh the world or merge the world. Instead, he stared at the light curtain calmly and asked, "Why did the Sleeping Beauty world inexplicably change from Alienation 1 to Alienation 5? If this question is not clarified, Rock will not be able to rest assured when he goes to other worlds in the future. For example, if he goes to the Little Red Riding Hood world, he originally thought that he would deal with an ordinary wolf, but it suddenly mutated and transformed into the god-killing wolf Fenrir. Wouldn't that be fun?" This time, the light curtain did not directly display the answer to the question. Instead, a series of pictures appeared in Rock's brain out of thin air. The dark sky, the broken earth, the gloomy, dark, and gloomy. Corpses like zombies wandered on the earth, and there were monsters in the air that were uglier than the devil. In the battle with the witches who were struggling to hold on, the boiling magic power rendered a piece of sky. Going up, the magnificent and vast divine power obscured everything. It was impossible to look directly, and one could only feel that there was a higher level of confrontation there. Rock stared at the picture in his mind silently. What is going on? A few words slowly emerged on the light curtain. The devil invades. Chapter 37. It is not common for the devil to invade and turn a world into a battlefield. The fairy tale world itself seems to have a certain rejection of gods, and it is difficult for gods to descend on the fairy tale world. The fundamental reason for this situation is that there are lunatics and traitors in the fairy tale world who use the world as a sacrifice to summon the devil. Others fail to stop it, and the devil really descends. The fairy tale world has no choice but to cancel its rejection of the gods, allowing the gods to descend, and the war between gods breaks out directly. So, in the end, it was actually because I was slow to enter the Sleeping Beauty world. Without my help, the extraordinary people in the Sleeping Beauty world failed to stop the summoning ceremony of the demon god, thus triggering the war between gods. Rock was playing with something in his hand. His previous worries were unnecessary. The fairy tale world rejects gods, naturally including demon gods, but it was only because of internal treachery that a series of situations were triggered. In other words, unless when Rock goes to a fairy tale world, another treachery jumps out and Rock fails to stop it, it will trigger this kind of alienation soaring and directly trigger the war between gods. Rock's brows gradually relaxed. Rock could accept this explanation. Before, Rock was curious why there would be a resurrection option every time he successfully conquered a world. Obviously, the threat level of those fairy tale worlds was not high enough to kill Rock casually. Now it seems that the real problem is here. Once this situation is triggered again, and Rock's world conquest level has not reached the level where he can return to the main world, he can only fight the gods to the death. The result is obvious. It seems that I need to improve the completion rate of tasks as much as possible in the future. Keeping a few more lives is only one aspect of insurance. The most important thing is to increase the rewards as much as possible and improve myself quickly. Rock is not a soft-hearted person who will not fight back when beaten. He prefers the approach of if you want to kill me, at least break your teeth. Once Rock reaches the legendary level, with his exclusive big move like legendary state, even if the gods come, Rock will not be afraid of a fight. If he can go one step further and reach above legendary, who will be the prey and who will be the hunter at that time, it is really hard to say. In addition, this incident also revealed a situation. The coming of the gods and the outbreak of the War of Gods is Alienation 5. So the general Alienation 1 and Alienation 2, even if there are gods, will not have much impact on the fairy tale world. With my current strength, plus the armored giant puppet, I think it won't be a big problem. Thinking of this, Rock breathed a sigh of relief. This invasion of the demons is not entirely a bad thing. At least it gave Rock some understanding of the so-called alienation. People are most afraid of the unknown. He opened the light curtain and glanced at the 3 worlds presented on it. Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, Sleeping Beauty, Alienation 5. After a little thought, Rock raised his hand and stretched out to the first 2 worlds. Merge these 2 worlds. The Alibaba world is not valuable, but it is also good as a nutrient for Snow White's world. Boom boom boom. In an instant, the entire Snow White world shook, and the queen lying in Rock's arms was also shocked. What's going on? Rock reached out and pressed down the anxious queen. It's not a big problem. You don't need to pay attention to those things now. Answer me a question first. What's the problem? Rock gently lifted the queen's chin and said lightly, do you want to be king? The queen was stunned at first, and then smiled and said, why, you want me to get rid of that useless king lying in bed? That's definitely no problem. No, I am not referring to the king of a small kingdom, but the real king, the king of this world, the king of the larger world, the supreme, above all, the Witch King. The queen was silent for a long time. Who doesn't have ambitions? Not to mention that she is a witch who plays with everything. The thought of becoming the king of a world, controlling everything and playing with everything at will. The Witch Queen's face flushed to the extreme, and her pair of extremely sensual legs rubbed against each other. Just thinking about it, she was completely excited. I want to. I want to. Very good. Rock nodded with satisfaction. Now, this world is merging into a new world. That world is not strong, and you can swallow it easily. But, in the future, perhaps I will manipulate more worlds to merge into this world. If you want to become a king above all others, then work hard to become stronger. The Demon Queen gently held Rock's hand, her movements were very gentle, as if she was touching a treasure, and gently placed it on her chest, saying devoutly, even fanatically, I will be the king of this world, and you will be my king, the only king. Rock stroked the Demon Queen's smooth chin. He was very satisfied with this answer. Outside, the vibration continued for nearly an hour. The world fusion is complete. There are 2 people you need to pay special attention to. One can be your future finance minister, and the other will be your top assistant. The reference is naturally the sister-in-law in Alibaba world, and the little maid Elsa. As for the rest, it's up to you. The Witch Queen smiled charmingly. No problem. But I need to do one thing first. Oh. That rubbish, it's time to send him to where he should go. Rock mourned for the poor king for 0.1 seconds, no more. As for the rest, there was no need to pay attention. With the Demon Queen's strength close to that of a mid-level apprentice, and the entire kingdom being controlled by her, if she still couldn't swallow an Alibaba world, she might as well crash into it and die. Rock's attention returned to the light curtain. At this time, with the completion of the fusion of the world, the light curtain changed again. New world can be named Sleeping Beauty World, Alienation 5, Dog and Sparrow. For a moment. Name which world? The text changed instantly. Which world? Sleeping Beauty, Alienation 5, the Dog and the Sparrow. Now, refresh the world and refresh the last two worlds. The Dog and the Sparrow, a world where a dog and a sparrow play around, is worthless. In an instant, the latter two worlds disappear without a trace, and a moment later, two new worlds emerge. Little Red Riding Hood, Alienation 1, Tinderbox, Alienation 1. Wow, both are very famous, and both are extraordinary worlds. One has a talking wolf, and the other has a tinderbox that can fulfill all wishes. Moreover, they are both alienated worlds, so the difficulty must be higher. After a little thought, Rock's eyes fell on the latter world. Chapter 38. This world is watched by a god who controls falsehood and truth. The god's gaze has caused the whole world to change dramatically. As an outsider, you can choose God's camp, help the gods hunt down rebels, and you may gain the appreciation and attention of the gods. Rebel camp, cut off the connection between God and the inner world, the reward is unknown. Good job. Looking at the completely changed mission template on the screen, Rock's interest was instantly piqued. Choose. What a stupid bird god, he can't get along with that bunch of people. Besides, the reward is the appreciation and attention of the god, haha, it means less to Rock than a silver coin. The main task has been activated. Current world, Little Red Riding Hood. Alienation, 1. World strategy, 0%. Strategy task. Kill the followers of God. Each time you kill one, you will get 2% strategy points, 0/50. The eyes of the gods fall down to form 3 pairs of unique eyes, which fall on the 3 favorite believers of the gods. Destroy them to cut off the connection between the gods and the world. For each eye of God destroyed, you can gain 50% strategy points, 0/3. PS, friendly reminder, please do not be stared at by the 3 pairs of God's eyes for more than 3 seconds, the consequences will definitely not be what you expect. A total of 250% strategy reward, 53 mission objectives. Rock smiled faintly, it was quite interesting. The surrounding scene began to change slowly, as if countless mirror images were breaking apart. This small space specially used for Rock to prepare for work was completely shattered and disappeared in a few seconds. Rock's feet also officially landed on the ground of this new world. He looked around subconsciously, and Rock's eyes became strange. High-rise buildings rose one after another, wide asphalt roads, bright street lights, endless four-wheeled cars, and pedestrians passing by in groups of 3 or 2 from time to time. This is the Little Red Riding Hood world. Steampunk Little Red Riding Hood? Or Little Red Riding Hood in the future world? He had never seen such a fairy tale world before, let alone seen it, he had never even thought about it. Suddenly, Rock's attention was attracted by something. It was a huge screen with an advertisement playing on it. Universal augmented reality is the second world of human beings, where you can gain immortality, stay away from diseases, and even build your own age at will. Rock rubbed his chin. Universal augmented reality? Second world? Virtual reality technology. He felt a sense of familiarity. Rock closed his eyes and began to recall his past memories. After a moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. I see, it's this version. No wonder this modern world style appears. In his previous life, Rock was fascinated by dark fairy tales for a while. He has read many versions of adapted fairy tales. This is an adaptation of Little Red Riding Hood that left a deep impression on him, an adult version of Little Red Riding Hood. There are no so-called talking wolves in this world, but there are people who are more terrifying than wolves. A group of lunatics whose boundaries between reality and falsehood have become blurred due to virtual reality technology. In order to tour the real feeling, this group of lunatics embarked on a perverted path, searching for the so-called sense of reality by killing young and beautiful girls in various ways. And this group of lunatics is called the Wolf Society. What impressed Rock the most about this adult version of Little Red Riding Hood was not this group of weirdos. The most popular character is Little Red Riding Hood. She doesn't have the fragility and kindness of Little Red Riding Hood in the orthodox fairy tales. Instead, she has big eyes, short hair, a red jacket, a miniskirt, black stockings, and high boots. She spits in people's faces at every turn. She has brains and is ruthless. She is a cool anti-hunter. The members of the Wolf Society use beautiful girls as prey, and seek excitement and realism in the process of torturing and killing beautiful girls. As an anti-hunter, Little Red Riding Hood is actively fighting against the hunting and the torture of those perverts. She is ruthless and proactive. To be honest, compared to the weak and little girl-like characters, this dark type of Little Red Riding Hood is obviously more in line with Rock's taste. However, the situation in memory is only the original world plot. This world is being watched by the gods, and some changes will definitely occur. Those members of the Wolf Society who were originally just a group of lunatics may turn into werewolves. There are also 3 pairs of so-called God-given eyes. The leader of the Wolf Society is likely to be one of them, but I don't have much impression of that guy, so it's not easy to find him. The original male protagonist is probably also one of them, but, what was that guy's name? Rock only remembered that Little Red Riding Hood's name should be Scarlet. As for the name of the perverted male protagonist, sorry, I really didn't pay attention to it. Who would pay attention to those unimportant things? Let's go find Little Red Riding Hood first. She must have a lot of detailed information. Chapter 39. At night, the street is not quiet. With the bright lights and wine, it is more lively than during the day. No matter how bright the light is, there must be darkness. In some dark corners, countless darkness has also emerged. In a remote and quiet alley, a wheezing sound was heard. The next moment, sparks lit up, one after another. Someone was smoking. The dim fireworks vaguely reflected the face of the person who was smoking. It seemed that he was a young and handsome guy. Suddenly, click, click. The rhythmic sound of high boots hitting the ground sounded. The fire of the cigarette butt instantly lit up more than ever, and the man's face was clearly reflected. The expression that was originally numb and boring suddenly showed an extremely eager expectation, which could even be called fanaticism. The man seemed to know that his posture would be a little scary, and his expression quickly restrained, replaced by a gentle and elegant one. He raised his head and looked at the source of the sound. I saw a young girl wearing a red jacket, black leather, and high boots, full of youthful energy. She seemed to be covering her mouth and yawning. I could vaguely smell a little bit of alcohol. Considering that there was a bar not far away, I could already predict what this girl had been through. The handsome man greeted her gently. "Hi, little girl, I think you need some help." Having said that, without waiting for the girl's reply, the man took the initiative to greet her in a familiar manner. One hand circled around and pressed the other side of the girl's shoulder, and the other hand was casually inserted into his pocket. The next moment, he skillfully took out a white face towel from his pocket, as if he wanted to wipe the girl's face, but he wiped the girl's mouth and nose. The girl seemed to cooperate intentionally or unintentionally, and loosened her hand covering her mouth. Suddenly, the girl exhaled a breath, with a unique scent of lily, which spread on the man's face. The man took a deep breath, and the girl's breath fragrance made him a little excited. However, this fragrance seemed to have a strong after effect. Why do I feel a little dizzy? Before the man could say anything, his increasingly weak body collapsed towards the body, and at this time, the girl skillfully held one of the man's arms and walked in one direction. Seemingly it looked like a girl was supporting a drunk man, and no one felt anything was wrong during the whole process. At most, passers-by would comment on the man's drinking habits, but it was not enough to say that he was so honest when he was drunk. A moment later, the girl supported the man and came to a remote and special room, and skillfully pressed the man on a table similar to an operating table. After doing this, the girl lifted the red hat on her head, revealing a delicate and heroic face. Glancing at the man tied to the operating table with great disgust, Little Red Riding Hood Scarlet began to walk to a box and began to organize various props. Ever since she knew about the extremely disgusting organization of the Wolf Society and the various inhuman acts of those beastly bastards who tortured and killed girls, Little Red Riding Hood Scarlet swore that she would also let these bastards taste the taste of being tortured and killed. This is just the first one. I advise you to check carefully before doing anything. The sudden sound startled Little Red Riding Hood and she became alert instantly. She did not stand up immediately, but quietly took out the sharpest scalpel from the box, and then slowly stood up. At this time, Little Red Riding Hood just discovered that a man, appeared in the seat where she usually liked to sit and think about the plan to kill the beasts of the Wolf Society. Looking at the man who appeared in front of her, Little Red Riding Hood's eyes revealed some doubts. This man is very handsome, even more handsome than the beast she tied to the operating table, but this is not important. Because of a nanotechnology called eye drops, almost everyone in this world can customize their appearance freely, and there are almost no ugly ones. But, unlike those whose appearances were customized by eye drops, the man in front of her gave her a very natural feeling, as if he should have been this look. More importantly, the other person's temperament is very unique and special. People who customize their appearance through eye drops will have a numb temperament over time, especially members of the Wolf Society. Not only are they numb, but they even feel rotten. It's not the kind of rotten smell, but the rotten temperament, as if they were a walking corpse. Little Red Riding Hood is naturally much more sensitive than ordinary people and can easily detect abnormalities. This is one of her ways to find members of the Wolf Society. The man in front of her did not have that kind of numbness or even rottenness. He was very natural and fresh. This feeling made Little Red Riding Hood a little confused. Is this guy really a member of the Wolf Society? Rock was holding a book in his hand and reading it with interest. This was a banned book that focused on describing people's weaknesses and weaknesses. There were many signs of flipping on it. Obviously, the owner of the book liked this book very much. The idea and action are good, but you made a small mistake. Where? Little Red Riding Hood asked curiously. She had a vague feeling that this person and the Wolf Club were not of the same kind. The amount of drugs. The amount of the drug. Little Red Riding Hood frowned in confusion. I deliberately used twice the amount of the drug, even the strongest Hercules can't bear it. It is impossible for humans, so what if it is not human? Inhuman. Little Red Riding Hood was not stupid. She reacted instantly and looked at the operating table. Oh, such a wonderful show was ruined by you, you are so rude. The man who was supposed to be in a coma actually woke up at this time. Not only that, just sitting up, all the ropes tied to his body broke. Little Red Riding Hood's face changed. You know, in order to avoid accidents, the ropes she used were special, enough to trap an adult, and no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't open his eyes. Little Red Riding Hood even did a special experiment to deliberately verify this. This guy, this beast from the Wolf Society, is wrong. Very wrong. Chapter 40. The man from the Wolf Society rubbed his brows, a distressed expression appeared on his face. He looked up at Little Red Riding Hood, then looked at Rock who was sitting in his seat. Hey, I wanted to see the perfect expression of that little girl from hope to despair, but now, I can't see it. I'm really disappointed. What should I do with you? Little Red Riding Hood instantly became alert, subconsciously took a few steps back, and moved towards Rock's position. The temperament is different, and there is no smell of the beast of the wolf society. Coupled with the deliberate reminder just now, it is obvious that Rock and the wolf society are definitely not in the same group. No matter what Rock's origins are, at this moment, he is definitely more trustworthy than the beast of the wolf society. Rock nodded slightly and looked at the man of the wolf society. How about I put on a show for you? Oh, what show? It's no wonder that the members of the wolf society are actually quite interested. As callous members of the wolf society, they are all looking for interesting things and having fun. Killing people, especially torturing and killing girls, is the most interesting thing for them. This doesn't mean that they won't be interested in other things. Interesting show. Rock said lightly. Okay. The man from the wolf society showed an evil smile. If it wasn't so interesting, I would eat you. The long tongue turned in a disgusting circle outside. Little Red Riding Hood's hand holding the scalpel trembled. Monster. This guy is definitely not a human. A human can't have such a long tongue. Rock smiled. Don't worry, I will satisfy you. As he said, Rock raised his hand and put two fingers together. Snap. A snap of fingers sounded. With a puff, the Wolf Society man, who was originally full of malice, was stunned for a moment. The next moment, he turned his head in confusion and looked at his arm. At this time, there was no trace of his arm. The whole arm was cut off by unknown means, and blood flowed down like it was free. It seems that you are very satisfied. Rock's smile gradually became playful, and he rubbed his two fingers together again. Pa! With a second snap of his fingers, the man's other arm was thrown out, and a large amount of pungent blood flew out in the air. Human, you are looking for death. The pain from the rejection came from both sides, and this pain made the man wake up completely, and then he was furious, an unprecedented fury. Roar! With a roar, the man's entire body began to swell, his body surface turned grey, and his human face quickly turned into a beast. In a flash, the whole person quickly turned into a ferocious and brutal beast. However, the missing arms and the blood that kept oozing out made this half-crippled monster less ferocious and terrifying. However, as the man turned into a beast, the missing arms actually began to grow back little by little. Oh no! It's recovering! Little Red Riding Hood beside him gritted her teeth and rushed forward to launch an attack, but was stopped by Rock with one hand. Your courage is commendable, but it's meaningless. Even if that thing is half dead, you can't deal with it. We can't just wait here. As she said this, Little Red Riding Hood looked at the beast opposite with a pair of burning eyes, without any fear in her eyes. Rock nodded. Not to mention the qualification problem, just this courage, coupled with the strong action, is worth cultivating. Beauty is good, and vases are not bad, but this kind of beauty and strength is naturally more attractive than a simple vase. Roar! At this time, the beast-like man had almost recovered his body, and he immediately launched an attack on the two people. His target was Rock. Compared with Little Red Riding Hood, an ordinary person with delicious meat, this strange man in front of him was naturally more threatening. However, at this moment, the third snap of fingers suddenly sounded. The beast-like man's body instantly stood still in the air, his whole body was frozen, motionless, and the expression on his face froze at this moment. 1 second, 2 seconds. With a crash, the beast-like man's body collapsed in the air, broke into countless pieces, and fell to the ground, with a pungent smell of blood. Rock walked forward and looked down for a few times. Speaking of which, he was really curious about the principle of these guys who could be beasts. Did they directly change the species? Or was it a special secret technique? Rock looked at it for a while, and a little head popped out from his side, looking at the broken bodies on the ground with curiosity. It looks like there is no difference between them and normal humans. Such a big monster, I thought it was different from ordinary people, for example, its heart is actually black. Rock glanced at it, telling a cold joke, and was not afraid at all, and was curiously peeping at Little Red Riding Hood. Aren't you afraid? This scene would scare most men, not to mention women, because all kinds of internal organs are scattered all over the place, and they are still hot and steaming. What's the big deal? According to my plan, after disassembling this guy, it will be similar to this. Very good. I can only say that it is worthy of being the dark version of Little Red Riding Hood, it is really sharp. Suddenly, Little Red Riding Hood gently poked Rock's arm. What was that you just did? Just snapping a few fingers, the monster was completely dead. It was really cool. Looking at Little Red Riding Hood with burning, excited and expectant eyes, Rock shook his head with amusement. This was the first woman Rock had ever seen who was so interested in killing. Want to learn? Yeah. Don't teach. Why? Don't want to teach. So when do you want to teach? I'll talk to you when I'm in a good mood. Master, instantly, Little Red Riding Hood's voice became tea-like, and she hugged Rock's arm, rubbing the hidden, full-bodied dumpling against him again and again. At this moment, the tea-like Little Red Riding Hood came on. End of the video. Like, subscribe.